Take a quick second here to make sure that everything is working on Twitch before I go too deep into the broadcast tonight. We have our encoding options. Looks like there's no interruptions into the stream, and so we're ready to go. Now I'm going to apologize in advance for the sound/vocal quality and just the overall level of energy. I know it was kind of low energy on on Friday as well. Part of that is sleep oriented, but one hard reality that I needed to face this weekend was I was invited to stream on a store page for Steam. This was for Cultist Simulator, so there's a small connection with Stellaris in the sense that this is by half of the developer is the author of the Horizon Signal. I know that's a very popular DLC. Still wonderful DLC actually. But in addition to the fact that I found sleep quite difficult over the last little while, I also just need to acknowledge the fact that 14 hours of broadcasting is not the easiest thing in the world to do. That's how long that stream wound up being. And especially the following day, my voice was very sore, or my throat was very sore. But because I had spent all day on Saturday doing that broadcast, for which I was paid, by the way, so that was, I was very happy to do it. And, I don't regret the choice. I wanted to make sure that I had the week's pre-recorded videos done. And so that meant recording, the two 20-minute videos on Wednesday and Friday, in addition to about 3 hours of Oblivion. So, at the that's probably about another 4 hours of streaming that I did when I was feeling quite worn out. But with that in mind, I don't want that to become an excuse to avoid doing Stellaris. I really enjoy this game. And so I just wanted to say up front, I know, I apologize. I have to deal with the world as it is, but I figured going live and even just making mistakes is better than going dark without notice. So with that in mind too, did say I liked Stellaris, and I do genuinely like Stellaris, but on the note of, I didn't get paid for this one, but I was given a key for this game for promotional purposes, and that has been true since Stellaris was an idea, a game that was upcoming, and I was very kindly given a key for promotional purposes for the base game, in fact before release, and so there was a lot of people inside of the channel, which was really nice. One of the ironies is I actually do feel more comfortable streaming to large groups of people. So the Steam stream, over 1,000, it's not that big of a deal. Twitch, I'm of course a much smaller entity, and so it takes a little bit of getting used to again. But I'm happy to be able to do this regardless of the audience size. But with that in mind, right, just because, so most of the DLC that I have active, basically everything except for humanoids and plantoids, have been given for promotional purposes, and while I don't need to ask for or accept the keys, it's still important to disclose that sort of stuff. So just keep in mind, if you're making a buying decision about the game, I have a perspective that is going to be shaped by the fact that the developer has given me these keys, and my enthusiasm I like to think is genuine, but as I always say, it's kind of up to you to decide whether or not there is something else at stake that you should be weighting that enthusiasm against. And I apologize for those of you who find that tedious to hear each time, but it is an important thing that I think it's important to also build a culture around. So, where are we with the Black Codex? So we've got a few. So in general, as far as victory, like the victory conditions are concerned, we have not done all. My goodness, I did not realize. So I, for some reason, had thought that we were behind the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation, and it looks like we have actually closed the gap with them. I am a bit surprised by that, and it'll be interesting to see if I unpause the game, whether or not Hey Olaf, and thank you for that. Thank you for that Twitter activity. I didn't see exactly what the nature of it was, but I did see that you did something. Very happy to see you. Um, what was I gonna say? But yeah, so I mean the Vitresis Hive. Let's face it, we're gonna have to work a while to try and overcome that. I had been under the impression that the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation was an advanced start, but it could just be that they were more technologically advanced than me, and I didn't want to admit it. The Vitresis Hive almost certainly is an advanced start. That, or they've just had an absolutely phenomenal game. So their fleet power still counts as overwhelming. I don't believe we can actually quantify their fleet power. However, there is an interesting little workaround in terms of how that works. Managing, I had a couple of things that have happened just in real life that are really really frustrating, but the bigger one for me actually is just, I'm sure you noticed my voice probably sounds a little strained, and I did a big broadcast on the weekend, and I had to follow that up with even more streaming, about 5 hours of recording yesterday when my so I streamed on Steam at for 14 hours, and I tried to get as much sleep as I could, but sleep has been a little bit elusive. Actually, you know what? Maybe I should get a throat. Oh, you checked for my stream. Right, yeah, it was on Steam. So the way I announced that, I need to come up with a better way of doing it. What I should have done actually was I should have tweeted it as well. I really didn't think of it at the time. That was a bit of a blunder on my part. But yeah, no, that was on the Steam page. So that went for 14 hours. I had a very again, sleep has been a bit elusive. So obviously when you wear yourself out like that, being able to get a good rest is really important. And for most of yesterday, my throat was feeling really, really brutal. And I still wanted to get the recordings done, so I did about 4 or 5 hours. More like 4 hours, I think. But yeah, no, I apologize, Ola. If you were looking forward to that stream, I did record it, and I don't think anybody actually wants to watch 14 hours of video. But I did record it, and it unfortunately there was an interruption in the upload on YouTube, and it's not allowing me to sort of redo it. So I'm gonna have to upload that tonight, and I know it's gonna take. I would not be surprised if that took a week for YouTube to turn into a high resolution video. But with that in mind, I definitely didn't want to. I did not want the. I didn't want the weekend, or I didn't want Monday to sort of get brushed aside just because I was feeling a little under. I do apologize though. I know I just started and I haven't really been doing gameplay stuff yet. What I am going to do though is I am actually just going to go and try and get some kind of a throat lozenge or that. I think I have a few left over from the last cold I had, so sorry about this. It'll just be a second. Oh man, a hamburger would be great. I'll tell you about my dinner actually. This is going to be so banal, so I'll try and get some gameplay in, but I have a very me story. Oh, I have tea, Olaf. I got through the stuff that underwhelmed me. I've got a slightly more expensive, but okay. So it's like an Earl Grey, but they use blood orange instead of bergamot, I think. And so, yeah, it's not bad. I wouldn't get it again, but it's not it's not unpleasant. Like, I'm not trying to down it as frequently so I can get onto the stuff I really like. Okay, sorry about that. And I am gonna have a hard. It's weird. I actually just brushed my teeth, so it's weird to have what feels like candy in my mouth. I guess it is kind of candy. But I will endure. I know that's going to make streaming sound really bad, but hopefully within the hour that's going to make my voice sound a little bit better. But yeah, so the way that I announced that Steam stream was I put a special announcement up on my YouTube channel. And it seems to be actually quite a few people saw it and appreciated it. So I was really happy with that. And I think because YouTube has been such a source of growth, I've kind of neglected Twitter. I guess that means that I let a bunch of people down, and I apologize for that. Anyways, back to Stellaris. My apologies. So actually, it used to be that I can't remember. I think it would give me a total diplomatic weight, and then the fleet power would be an unknown. But because there was one, yeah, I've really wanted my Twitter to get better, because especially for the writing stuff, like I feel like my writing is better than what my audience implies. Maybe I'm wrong with that, right? Like maybe I am just like a hack, and maybe I should just shut up about it. But I do sort of feel like I have a smaller reach than what under normal circumstances I would be comfortable with. But again, like people are going to follow what they're interested in, and I know I don't update as regularly, so thank you, Olaf. Anyways, yeah, never mind. I will work on the Twitter thing. But yeah, so it used to be that we would have sort of question marks on a few of these stats, but it would give us like, one unknown and like all of the other components of the breakdown of either the diplomatic weight or the score or whatever. And so it was pretty easy for us to do a comparison with regards to the other entities. Suffice to say, I do not want to be going up against these guys. Not only are they, not only do they have a more powerful navy, and it is almost certainly a larger navy, but they have superior technology to me. So there's an argument that even if I wanted to try some very clever tactics to, undo them, it's pretty fair to say that anything that I would try and do to take out the Vitresis Hive would probably be met with sort of a technological advantage that could absorb it. Now, I'm not quite ready to go sort of conqueror anyway. As wonderful as it would be to sort of invade and sort of vassalize the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation, there's a lot of runway that I have in terms of just being able to expand out and get my own territory under control. And we've actually been able to close the gap quite well with what we've got here already. Oh, actually, Olaf, I know you remember what the conversation in chat was like after I wrote this article too. Now that the Unreal Engine 5 stuff is out and people have been getting their hands on it, I feel really good about that article, because it's always nice to have independent verification of some of the stuff that you write about. I got a vaccine appointment. Oh wait, it says the link expires today. I will still be able. Sorry, there's a bunch of stuff pulling my attention at the start. That's really bad. I have enough time before. Man, that's like a 4-hour window they've given me. Hey, Working55, how you doing? Okay, I'm gonna take a look, because if I can get my shot sooner, then I will be. That'll be one less thing that I need to worry about. So, what are the things that we're focusing on right now? Well, we're a little shy on influence. We've started to sort of build it up, and there are a couple of things that I could do to try and improve things for myself. I could try, I could get rid of some of the non-aggression pacts. I could get rid of some of the migration pacts. I don't know if I'd want to get rid of the research agreement and the commercial pact. I think the research agreement isn't going to be giving me as much as I used to get out of it. But it's not, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing either. But yeah, we're definitely in sort of refill mode. Just to give you an idea in terms of why that's important, if I wanted to take another system, that's going to be 67 influence. So I can probably grab this little trio here, but that's going to put a damper in terms of my ability to go up. Ambiguous working. So we have not made a hard decision yet on our traditions. What Working 55 may be referring to is one of the new features in Nemesis, available where fine games are sold today. Under Society Management, you get different Ascension perks. So we did go for Transcendence. I believe this might actually be the first time that I start going down some of the path of the different Shroud events. But what Morking might be referring to is something that was added inside of Nemesis called Become the Crisis. Now, I don't actually know if this is something that replaces one of the endgame crises, or if you still have to deal with some of the stuff that that happens inside of the game. But basically, if you want inside of this game, you can go down this path that will sort of lead you to become sort of this galaxy-shaping event that takes them. It's a big deal. It's something you kind of become this thing that the game sort of revolves around. And so, of course, you'd better be willing to bring your A game to achieve your goals. But, of course, it also allows you to sort of be the focus of attention, which is another really cool thing. So I'm leaving myself the option of doing that, but I haven't made a decision in terms of that mechanic. So construction ships, mostly I'm going to be maintaining my existing my existing systems. There's a few things that have popped up over time. There are a few things that I didn't actually properly capture. But I do eventually want to start closing in some of these gaps, particularly these regions with lots of energy. Also, any systems that might have planets that I could colonize. So, Fact is a good example of this. It's a little bit harder to say that I can take Sawa and Teague because those just take so long to move out to. And then another consideration that I'll have is defensibility. So Maisa right now is it's the exit is controlled by the Talakura Citizen Compact, who I believe we get along reasonably well with, but I don't think we have any formal treaties with. Let's just confirm that right now. So inferior trade, equivalent fleet power. They are in a defensive pact with the Zaxoids, so I cannot... Fascinating. They are in a defensive pact, and yet they've closed their borders to them. They have a CB on me. The good news is that we are spiritualist. However, they are egalitarian, whereas we're authoritarian. So, mind you, they're an oligarchy, so they're just waiting to see the light and become a little more restrictive in their society. But yeah, I don't believe we have a formal non-aggression pact with them, nor are we able to, to convince them of that. So this would be a point where, while I don't particularly fear it, that's not where I'm worried about. This is where I'm worried about. Hang on. Yeah, so this one is internal to my empire. I'm not that worried about that one. But wait a minute. So if this one's internal, oh right, okay, it's Intham and then Maisa. Maisa is the one that's a bit of a worry. Yeah, I mean, I can sort of see why, right? Like, Canada and the US are both NATO allies, which I believe you would call a defensive alliance, right? But I don't really know if we have... I think it would be considered extremely unusual if U.S. troops were to suddenly just go, marching into the, into Canada. Now, U.S. science teams, well, I don't know. I guess they'd still need to, sign an agreement and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I would say it's not entirely unprecedented, but I suppose a lot of that really depends on what you think the nature of the agreements are in terms of border. Like, it seems to me this is a pretty hard border, and obviously it is possible to go from Canada to the US and vice versa. So it's not the perfect analogy, and obviously this is a war game, so pretty much everything you're going to be moving in their space is military. But the funny thing is that even though they're in a defensive alliance, I believe if they were to actually go to war, I still think that units would not be able to move in their territory. So anyways, just a funny thing. And the biggest one is just because having closed borders, I believe, does impose a penalty on your relationships. And so it just means it's less likely to have a defensive alliance because you have this irritant between the two species. Okay, moving right along. We've got a colony ship on its way to colonize Epsilon Indi. So that was the last planet that we successfully terraformed. I believe we are not currently terraforming anything, but that's because we are currently trying to get our finances back to where they used to be. The fleet is kind of where I want it to be. It would be nice to have a larger fleet, and I will definitely start building some anchorages. But the good news is right now I have what I need. The only thing that's really something I can't... Well, even now I could probably handle this, but the question is whether or not it's really worth it. So this is something that I probably lose a few ships to. And then we've got these guys to clear out at some point. Yeah, we're doing an okay job of... the Ruby Swarm, I think, is a little frightening. That's about 5k. Oh, no, even then, we've got 9.9k. So maybe we do go and start clearing out some of the riffraff. Could you do an overview of my species? Sorry, just arrived. I haven't seen this playthrough. No problem at all. So let's do I'll do the story for the species name is the Emutherians, although they're better known as the Black Codex. So the little snippet that we've written here. Accurately separating the facts and legends about the Black Codex would require membership, and anything less than membership in the higher orders would only be accurate. Accurate? Good lord. Would be accurate about 60% of the time. Reputed members have ranged from Rhizome Capital's most popular televangelist, Francis Bayberry, to the unnamed head of the intelligence services of the Blessed Alari Grand Duchy. The greatest cryptographers have been stymied by the Black Codex's use of metaphorical ciphers, while the great philosophers of lesser empires lack the computational power to bear witness to the labyrinthine sermons of Matriarch Bethen, who was then the leader. The Black Codex knows and keeps all. What they do with the information remains to be seen. So because Nemesis introduced a bunch of espionage mechanics, I sort of thought I wanted to do something a little bit oriented towards the espionage mechanics. And so I wanted to take a number of ideas. So I have been a little bit interested in sort of code making and code breaking, or cryptography and cryptanalysis, or however you want to term it. But I was also sort of interested in some of the more religious aspects of, these secret societies like the Pythagoreans, right? So the Pythagoreans were very serious about their math, right? And they made genuine mathematical discoveries, but also had this entire religious component to it, everything from sort of reincarnation to abstaining from beans. We've largely lost what those beliefs were. And then, again, you kind of can take your pick in terms of things that you can go on with. I also was, interested a little bit in terms of different things that you see inside of religion. So this could be everything from something that I think most people are familiar with, things like the Book of Revelation and the idea of, the mark of the beast being a number for a man, and that a decoding of that, probably the more credible decoding of that particular number is Nero Caesar. And of course, a message being brought across that the people who need to know, those who have understanding can get it, presented in a way that your readership will understand what you're trying to say, but the authorities are not necessarily going to be able to to get it, at least within the time frame that you care about, or even some ideas of like Gnosticism and this idea of sort of you really need to study and get it, and it's not big and friendly. There's a huge rabbit hole of sort of cults and religions and all of that you can go down. And Tillman Enk, who stopped by the stream, I think back in the first playthrough, correctly pointed out that a lot of this actually is inspired by the author that this update is named after, Philip K. Dick. And there's all sorts of just neat and wild stuff that he wrote, both in his books, but also in terms of just sort of some essays and things that he wrote, trying to understand some of these very strange visions that he had. So I basically had an idea here of a species that was dedicated, was so dedicated to the idea of the collection and enciphering of information and deciphering of information, that it took on this particular religious significance, and that they would be as comfortable discussing, Claude Shannon's information theory as they would be, delivering an extended lecture on these profound metaphysical ideas, laden with metaphors that sort of require you to have read, across 5 or 6 different fields of study and even what, maybe other species might consider fiction. So that's all well and good, but in the end, the whole reason for coming up with these species... Oh yeah, and of course, the implication here with some of these descriptions, the names that I have inside of here are other species that I've made in other playthroughs. So the idea here as well is that because they are oriented around an idea and that they have this way of communicating with each other, those who know, there's always the possibility that the head of your own intelligence services might actually be a member of this secret order dedicated to the keeping of secrets, because that's exactly the kind of person that it attracts. But again, as cool as it is to come up with these stories, I always want to come up with a way of realizing them mechanically. So as far as the traits are concerned, what I started off with was an intelligent species. I think that kind of goes without saying. Traditional. And communal. So these two things here are kind of collecting into the idea of sort of these monastic orders and such. And then I said slow breeders. So the way that I did slow breeders was not necessarily that there was any biological factor that caused them to breed slowly, but rather it was the idea that, they don't just accept everyone, that it's actually very hard to be, inducted even into the lowest levels of this particular order. Again, it's very rare that you're going to have someone who has this spiritual sensibility while simultaneously being able to understand the hard work that they go into. By the way, I've completely ignored Plato in all of this description, but similar idea, right? Like, excuse me. Plato has these ideas of, like the forms and such, but there's a ton of stuff about mathematics as well. And obviously the sharper distinctions that we make today, although I know there's still like mathematical Platonists today, but obviously it's a distinction that makes sense to us today as opposed to what might have been true for his contemporaries. So I'm trying to protect my throat, so I'm going to pause for some refreshment. So that's kind of how I represented these ideas in terms of the species traits. Now, as far as the society is concerned, I don't think I've had to shift around the civics yet. So I said that they're authoritarian. Now, that seemed to make sense to me, right? You've kind of got a religious head to this order. That didn't seem too difficult. The question really was fanatic authoritarian or regular authoritarian, and I decided that I would go fanatic spiritualist. Mostly because none of the other traits that I could come up with really seemed to make sense for this story that I was telling. And so I decided that fanatic spiritualist would be the best one that I could work with. Excuse me. And then, as far as civics, I said exalted priesthood. Again, it sort of seemed to make sense here that you've got this fairly strict hierarchy inside of the Black Codex, and there's going to be sort of these limits in terms of what you can know. It's kind of a two-way street. So in one sense here, that your ability to get that information is as much of an indication that you are ready for that information. And so in that spirit, I also put in cutthroat politics. Now, partly this was because of the higher code breaking level. One thing that I've sort of used as a guiding light on this has always been, if I have an opportunity to engage with the espionage mechanics, I do it. But I also sort of thought, right, like I've been in enough econ seminars to see how brutal they can be sometimes. And I always sort of thought that, you know, the one driver of the increasingly ingenious ciphers of the, of the Black Codex would be the fact that, you know, if you can actually find your rival's notes and decode them, that's going to give you a massive advantage over, while you're trying to work your way up in the order. And so I figured that would be, that was something both consistent with what I wanted to do in terms of sort of how I think the species works, as well as, something that I just thought would be kind of interesting and consistent with the mechanics of the game. Another thing that I thought was kind of interesting here was we picked remnants. So I didn't work this out as part of the idea for the species originally, but I'm actually really happy we went with this. So these are the origins that were introduced in Distant Stars, was it? I actually forget which update this came in. You can check the wiki, it'll tell you for sure, but I know I need to kind of get on with the gameplay. So the description for this is, this civilization once spanned the void, controlling much of the galaxy. They were eventually defeated and almost destroyed, but after a long period of destitution, they are returning to the stars. So there is an implication here that it could in fact be the intelligence services of this older empire. And some ambiguity as to whether or not the intelligence services were always composed around this kind of quasi-religious structure, or if it is the fact that they survived and sort of hid while the destruction was happening, and that the passage of time has given it this religious significance. I don't actually have, so I'm definitely not one of these sort of world builders who's like, I'm going to work out every single detail before I make a decision. Like, sometimes you just want to have stuff, sometimes you just want to have stuff emerge. But I thought that was a nice little bit of icing on the cake. And one thing that's kind of neat about the way that this mechanic works is that you start with a relic world. Now, I think we've gotten the last of our tech here. But as you start clearing out, at least the old things that I was clearing out on the planet, you actually start getting new techs. And so again, we were back to sort of it was reinforcing that idea of sort of lost knowledge and recovering information and such. So it's one that actually lined up really well. And so that's kind of the idea of the species here. Again, not necessarily all of this. Very rarely in a Stellaris game am I going to make all of the decisions consistent with sort of just steamrolling the opponents. I generally want to go on sort of a fun ride. And in this case here, I'm pretty happy with how these guys turned out. So let me just take a quick second here. So we covered what we wanted to do with the construction ships and just the general shape of where I want our borders to go over time. I want to do a quick audit of the worlds just to make sure that we're not running short of jobs. I know the home world is going to get a little short on jobs, and then Gribben Prime. I'm in this weird position where I've actually got a pretty decent food surplus right now. And I just want to double check I don't have a decision that will boost my my population growth. So the big challenge that I have on this one is that I can keep hammering the food, and that's fine. I mean, it's the breadbasket of the Empire and all. But is there other stuff that I could be doing with this world that's a little more interesting? It's actually one of the better worlds for generator districts. I've got 2 slots available now, and I can unlock 6 more. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so technically I can get away with. I can build 1 more slot before I need to make that hard choice. Yeah, we'll see. Right now, though, we're laughing as far as food is concerned, so no worries there. Aerostat Prime is our industrial world. Now, we finally managed to get that sorted out by sort of forcing all of the pops into certain specialized roles. That does mean, one thing that makes me really sad about this is that priests and colonists are sort of getting short shrift here. I would prefer to sort of fill up this planet a little bit more. But unfortunately doing so would pull away from the artisans, and I had a whole bunch of maneuvering to do to try and get us to where we wanted to be with our industrial worlds. Lemsa, more jobs than they know what to do with. This is also an industrial world. Wentwork is going to be a science world when all is said and done, but they've got more than enough people to work their jobs, so I'll leave that be. Ugrasti is on its way to becoming a forge. Right, we're making it a forge world because there was, well, one, there wasn't a whole lot else to do with it. I also think once we start clearing out some of these features, I also need to remember to get the moat harvesting traps, actually. Okay, I'll leave that be for now. Taya, I think this one, if I recall correctly, I was still panicking about my overall level of consumer goods, so I might have gone overweight on some of these industrial worlds. We've got 1, 2... I've actually got 3 dedicated industrial worlds right now, but I suppose the good news there is if I'm really producing a huge surplus, I can always convert one into a forge world. Which is probably why I was trying to figure out what's going on here with Borobo Prime. This is, ripe for industrial exploitation. This is almost certainly going to become a forge world, but I also didn't see any reason to, to force that choice. I am, however, going to build a temple because I want my unity to grow. Knights has got its gene clinic and its temple. I guess this one is probably going to be more in turn. Oh, right, this was my new bureaucratic center. So I guess we can start building that right now. And then this is a colony, so I think we're already on our way to building a gene clinics and such. And we're already on the way to the city district, so I'm just going to leave all of that alone. And then finally the star bases. I mean, we've upgraded them pretty far, and there's going to be some point in which I just throw a bunch of anchorages at the problem. But what I do want to get an idea of is what my trade situation looks like. I'm taking advantage of whatever natural feat. Actually, is that true? Yeah, it looks like we've got black sites where we can build them. Riser's on its way to getting an upgrade. Yeah, so I'm reasonably happy with where we are defense-wise. I think I am going to have to build some more star bases, particularly in Mysa. That might be the last one, though, at least until we expand out. But in reality, what I probably want to be throwing my alloys at are, improving the fleet. So that's going to mean anchorage. That's one of the reasons I'm holding off on anchorages, because I want to build things that are useful for those star bases, but I don't want to have to. Sorry, I don't want to have to. I don't want to have to sort of refactor. I don't want to have to rebuild some of my star bases due to hasty decisions made today. All right, it looks like the Tianqi Conservation Act is going to pass. So if they add their 1.4K, that's going to bring them up to 5.3. So unless we have a defector, I believe the combination of the Vitresis Hive and the Black Codex are sufficient to... Oh, actually, that's a really interesting idea if that's true. So if the Vitresis Hive and I are able to jam through legislation, that's a little bit more power than I thought. Now,
new wisdom.
Is the Vitresis Hive that's really going to make that happen? Because it's equally true that the Zaxoids would be able to get, if they sort of ally with the Hive. Although the Hive does owe me a favor, so I suppose if it really comes down to it, we can make it happen. But we already know what we want to do in terms of the upcoming legislation, so we should be able to manage it. I do eventually want to participate a little bit more in the Senate, but I just need to use my influence for expanding my borders right now. So, all right, Ceramo Metal Infrastructure. We get an additional building slot, faster colony developer speed. Stronger alloys allow us to create prefabricated buildings, providing our colonies with the improved infrastructure. So let's think. Telepathy, again, I do eventually want to study that. I mean, Tomb Worlds as well, I suppose. Ecological Adaptation. Ah, yes, this is pretty helpful, actually, because this would allow me to get some improvements on my existing worlds. These are all actually very good. Which makes telepathy all that much harder for me to really justify. So I'm going to do ecological adaptation, but I want to see if we've got somebody who's a little bit more suited to the role. Bird Jamak seems to be a slightly better researcher. So they're level 4 and they're a genius. Alright, so they're not going to be on the other science ship anymore. Alright, I think we're ready to put a little more time into it. So I'm not I will definitely say I am not opposed to throwing my weight around in the galaxy, but I do think that I do think there is something to be said for the status quo right now. I think dedicating resources towards wars is not the right call. I think instead what I want to be focusing on is... Did I really build 2 temples? Oh yeah, no, of course I built 2 temples because of the bonuses here. Alright, what's going on here? That is not within my territory, but that's fine. That's auto doing that. Okay. So they're already building their temple. Got Gene Clinic, so we can build our temple right away here. So I'm just gonna... I've got my work computer that's pinging me every few seconds. Obviously, if there's any questions about the species or the playthrough, I'm happy to try and answer them as far as I can. Okay, so that's a pretty attractive system here. We've got a continental and an ocean world. So to take one system, with a trinary star system no less, we have got basically 31 different pop slots that we could start working on. The other thing that makes this very attractive is that you know, each individual... So I've been talking about how I've been constrained by population. One of the things that really helps me out here is if I'm able to colonize a lot of worlds, while I might have a slower growth rate, I am able to, I am sort of able to try and build people. Like, I'm applying that growth rate to a bunch of different individual planets, and so I'm sort of trying as best as I can to blunt the, you know, the limitations that I'm running into. One thing I could really try and do, this would be very expensive as far as credits are concerned, so now is probably not the best time to do it, but because there's sort of diminishing returns to pops, so this, you know, my capital has got 56 pops right now, so if you take a look at their growth rate, so newly founded colonies is not that interesting. Oh, it does not say... Definitely in this patch they introduce something where as your planet grows, there is sort of a reduction in terms of the speed at which they will, you know, at which you'll sort of acquire new ones. So one thing that's also worth mentioning right now, so I'm selling 60 consumer goods and buying 100 minerals. That's because I did a deal back when I thought that I had a little bit more, like a little bit more of a deficit in terms of my like my consumer goods. I didn't realize that I could sort of refactor some of the priorities in terms of work.
Have been improved.
So unfortunately, that was a 30-year contract, so we're sort of locked into that, and this is my way of trying to use the Galactic Marketplace. What I'm hoping is that over time, what I'm selling at, like basically, I'm hoping that I'm going to be adjusting the price as time goes by. So if this contract ends and I wind up in a tough spot again,
our ships have been improved.
I'm going to be able to take advantage of these several turns of sales. All right, something has happened on one of the archaeological sites we're currently excavating. Zron. Zron is wrecked by storms of psionic energy and appears to only be partially in phase with the rest of the universe. Whatever calamity befell the Zroni seems to have originated here. Like all the previous colonies, it is devoid of Zroni, but is teeming with crystalline signals. Given this much signal noise on top of the strange atmospheric conditions, it may take us some time to locate any useful information. Alright, new tech. So, simulated social engineering. The weakest link in any security system are the individuals within it. By modeling their weaknesses in computer simulations, we can find novel ways to bypass their security or trick them into bypassing it for us. So research complexes are incredibly tempting to research. I'm not going to use them right now because I don't have the resources for it really. And I also don't really need, like, we need bodies right now. We don't need new jobs, but it is, yeah. I mean, plasma accelerator is kind of cool. It's 34 months. I think in this case here, I should probably be building up some of my my lesser techs.
Our ships have been improved.
You're going to be hearing this a lot because I don't know why they do it this way, but every time you upgrade an individual defense platform, they tell you our ships have been improved. So we've got 12 of them. We have to hear that 12 times. Not my favorite, but I don't even necessarily think they should remove it entirely. I think they should just make it an option. Because I would definitely be willing to be informed when the stack is done, not when the not when the individual is done. I'm not entirely sure there's a situation where the defense of my systems is going to depend on that one individual. That one
Our
individual.
Ships have been improved. Our ships have been improved. System
and then of course what it does
complete.
also do is this is the group that I did want to know was updated, because there's actually some other updates that these ones need. There's 5 ships.
Construction complete.
Anyways, I'm done complaining about it. It would be a nice to have. It'll probably
Our
not
ships
happen.
have been improved.
It's actually also probably very difficult to make it dependent on the queue, because like what if you add or remove stuff, right? But yeah, as it is, I can't really think of a lot of circumstances under which I'm like, oh, the defense of the realm rests on me knowing that one individual, defense platform was ready to go. We can declare war now, boys.
Our ships have been improved.
Wow, that was fast. All right, strange crystal. We have found and communicated with several crystals, including one from the outcast Shroud Entity researchers. With these, we are learning more about the Zroni's war. Using the Zro dust required great sacrifice from the saviors, but with it they were able to turn the tide of their war against the divine. As their defeat loomed, the ever-increasing rage and fear of the divine spawned new and terrible entities within the Shroud. The feedback loop grew. Pushing the divine into the depths of madness. They were driven to ever-worsening atrocities, urging the saviors to end the war at any cost. I gotta stop this. Oh, especially with a slave available. Okay, through hard work and experience, scientist Buri Bakorab has developed new skills. I guess it doesn't say which one. I thought it used to. Okay, good. We're not gonna get bothered by that anymore. And let's buy some workers. It used to be Lemsa that was the one that I put the most on. Let's see if that's still true. Yeah, because Lemsa is like I went crazy on Lemsa, so I've got a big surplus to. Well, I guess Grasti is also in the same boat. Anyways. This is why we don't want to close the slave market. I want to buy back my species.
Our ships have been improved.
All right. I believe this is the one that I actually wanted to know about. All right. So these ones I'm just going to go send off to clear out, again, as I like to call them, the riffraff. This is probably the most... Well, you know what? Let's send them as far out as we can. No, you know what? That doesn't make as much sense. Migrating Forests. The surface of... Iberia Prime is covered in lush forests with massive tree analogs rising hundreds of meters into the air. Interestingly, our colonists have found that nearly all of the flora is mobile to various degrees. Forests stretching for miles will slowly migrate to new areas richer in nutrients in a cycle that seems tied to the moon's orbit. Unfortunately, this has seriously hampered our efforts to develop the colony's infrastructure. The migrating trees frequently cut power lines while smashing our buildings and roads into rubble. So, migrating forests debuff is added, max mining districts down, max agriculture districts down, max generator districts down. Begins the migrating forests on Iberia Prime event chain. And we can do study migrating forests or burn migrating forests.
Situation log updated.
What am I researching in social again? Feel like I should do ecological adaptation first, just because it gives me the option. After that, though, we'll research the new tech. Or sorry, we'll research the special project. There's a bunch of stuff that I want to do in this game. It's really just a question in terms of when is the appropriate time for so much of this. Sorry, I just got a message that makes me wonder about Twitch. Okay, looks like it's working for me. I just sent a quick thing in. Twitch chat. I was a little worried that I wasn't able to read my chat, but if I can send one, it's either giving me a very good deception of working, or. My suspicion is it was just something unrelated. Okay, so it looks like we passed the Tianqi conservation. I gotta remember what that was again. Any empire that kills a Tianqi is considered in breach of public law. Okay, so... It's really just a club I can beat someone with, rather than it being anything too practical. Oh, I didn't make my ships go on the way. Okay, so you know what? We're going to go for the tough one first. Let's see how we handle the Void Cloud.
Us new wisdom.
All right, research complexes. As we explore the galaxy, we continually encounter new materials and substances that are unfamiliar to us. Cataloging and analyzing these discoveries will require new facilities. Let's do a... I should have had these improved deflectors ages ago, so... Actually, the funny thing is that improvement's probably going to arrive just in time to... Well, then they're also probably going to be better equipped against decisions. You know what? I should commit to my original choice. I don't think we get to see what they're packing.
New wisdom.
All right, ecological adaptation. By adapting planetary ecosystems to large-scale environmental changes, we can turn terraformation into a less disruptive process. So our options here, clone army is the cheapest. Society from researchers is actually pretty good. So given the fact that I get to unlock psionic army and tomb world habitability whenever I want, I am going to go for the extra society research.
System survey complete.
And that's just because it means that I can do all that stuff faster. I am, however, going to study the migrating forests first, though.
Construction complete.
All right, let's see what we built. This was Starbase. So we'll build all the mining and research stations. The thing that I'm really focused on right now is just trying to improve my... I'm really just trying to improve the energy that I'm getting. This is just because so I'm going to be building a bunch of things that put demands on my energy. I'm also going to be sending my fleets out. And we have gotten to this point where we've had difficulty meeting our obligations. Like, I want to keep the research agreement up. I want to keep the artisan troop Kickstarter going, and then of course I do these things like buying slaves, and I also want to get some terraforming in. So we used to have a really robust economy. I mean, economy-wise we're doing okay. Everything is in surplus. Like I'm not worried. I'm not worried in broad strokes about where we're at. But my overall feeling is that we could be doing a lot better as far as energy credits are concerned, because in the end, some of the things that I want to do are not necessarily just maintain, but I want to be spending large amounts of energy credits to optimize my empire. Oh yeah, I think for Night Valiant I was going to tell you a story about my dinner. So I'm not particularly skilled in the kitchen. So I have kind of my go-to, like, this is, I'm trying not to order Uber Eats, you know, I am trying to somewhat be a grown-up sort of a scenario. And one of my go-tos is just to make a very simple pasta dish, right? I'll usually get some, ground turkey and put it in a sauce. Boil some pasta, put a nice salad beside it, some bread. I'm pretty happy. I've very simple taste as far as food is concerned. But I've now been, but maybe I can at least try to season it a little bit. So I'll put a little pepper, and I have enjoyed some I guess ready chili flakes or whatever they're properly called. But as I mentioned, I've had some trouble sleeping lately, and so I've often been very groggy and not very focused on a lot of things that I'm doing. So like an idiot, I screwed off the top to the chili flakes as opposed to pop the top. Went to sprinkle and emptied like a quarter of the shaker onto the ground turkey, and I'm like, well, I'm not wasting food, so just carried on. And it's not inedible, but it is, suffice to say, a little bit spicier than I am accustomed to. And I did have some leftovers for it, so instead of a hamburger today, I did enjoy some leftover pasta, which, even when eating cold, it'll still keep you warm. Strange crystal. As we communicate with more crystals, more details emerge. On the brink of defeat, the Divine decided upon their ultimate plan: the end of the cycle. The growth of the black hole of the black hole galactic core would be accelerated to consume the galaxy as soon as possible. At worst, the Saviors and every other species in the galaxy would be destroyed, leaving the Divine to rule the Shroud for a vast but finite time. It was, however, possible that the expansion would become self-sustaining, consuming not just the galaxy but the universe itself, providing a source of energy which may not be infinite, but would at least come close enough to a close enough amount to make no practical difference. How are we doing piracy-wise? I don't think these patrols are really quite doing what I need them to. Patragor pulses steadily, its helioseismology indicating an internal composition far denser than expected. What could be responsible for this surprising density? I mean, I guess it's sort of disrupting everything, but it's, I guess it's always going to be red because there's always going to be a small ticking amount. If I want to permanently get rid of it, I'm going to need to put down some stations.
The spirits have granted us new wisdom.
Research everywhere. Alright, these updated deflector screens are capable of soaking up even more punishment before they overload. So Research Institute is very desirable right now, but so are shields. Oh, 34 months versus 26 months. The Research Institute is a multiplier for a lot of worlds that I actually think are very important, so I am going to bite the bullet and do Research Institute, but I'm going to feel really bad about it. And then for engineering, Durasteel armor. The strong yet flexible material is capable of withstanding severe punishment. It serves well as ship armor. Ooh, I can already build a citadel. I can also build a battleship. I think I like... Again, I'm kind of reaching a little too far. 62 months. Going for it. I do like new ships. Okay, I just spilled my tea all over myself. Sorry, I realize none of this is at all relevant to Stellaris. I do sometimes feel like I need to justify why there's all of a sudden sounds of motion in the background and no talking, though, so... I'm just trying to find something to mop up the... I mean, it's on me, so it's not quite as bad as like a keyboard or paper or something, but just a second. Okay, I think that'll cover it. Oh! Valid destination planet miss. Here we go. Cosmic Diamond. While on the surface, Pythagore appears to be an ordinary white dwarf, the star hides an intriguing secret. By studying Pythagore's pulsations, the From Beyond crew has discovered its composition to be almost entirely crystallized carbon. This astronomical crystal lattice seems to have formed as the star cooled, originating in its gas-fueling core and growing outward over time. Pythagore is diamond of cosmological proportions, glinting behind a white veil of oxygen and helium. So extra physics to Pythagore, which is... yeah, that is within my...
The faithful have claimed a new world.
That is within my territory. Okay, new world. This is one of the reasons why I really liked that that upgrade that gave me an additional building slot. I don't actually need to worry about the city district. I'm gonna build one anyway, but I can sort of get up. I can build my like colony in a box pretty easily now. So I want to start with a gene clinic. I'll build a temple following that. City district, and I think this is going to be an industrial focused world. So, atmospheric aphrodisiac. Hello. Something in the air on this planet seems to put people in the mood to reproduce. Unfortunately, it does hurt my governing ethics. People turn away from the divine path. But we're sure going to have a lot of them. So, that's actually probably pretty good for this world.
System survey complete.
As long as my science ships aren't, as long as my science ships aren't kind of running idle, I'm okay with them doing some auto for now. Like, it would be really nice to, just sort of be able to, you know, to see like everything on the other end here and to be able to claim it for myself. But if I'm working already to try and claim this stuff, I should probably be a little more realistic in terms of what I'm actually gonna, you know, what I'm gonna be able to accomplish. So right now, being able to just focus on this stuff for now is fine by me, and I'll let the science ships do whatever they want. So we've been getting lucky with the slaves. I do keep wondering where they come from. It's almost certainly the migration treaty. I'm just a little surprised that I do actually have species that are voluntarily going to these really inhospitable worlds. My in my head lore justification for this is I'll say that they are people who are actually members of other species who are joining the Black Codex. rather than necessarily
Special project
necessarily
complete.
being people who've left. All right. We have learned that the roaming forests on Iberia Prime avoid certain regions that are home to colonies of a native pseudo-insect. These insects secrete a pheromone that can be used to steer the wandering trees away from population centers. Furthermore, the areas where the forests most frequently range have been closed off as nature reserves. Our biologists can learn much by studying this reserve from the neighboring regions. All right, Migrating Forest modifier removed. Remove Migrating Forest from Iberia Prime. Add Migrating Forest Reserve to Iberia Prime with the following result. Additional society research from jobs and 2 researcher jobs. This world is probably more docile migrating forests. The wandering forests of this world now avoid populated areas and no longer cause damage to settlements. Their presence still limits the amount of free land available to colonists. So, while it would be nice to be able to make this a research-oriented world, the fact of the matter is this is actually quite good for industry. So, we're still probably going to focus on that. Although you never know, right? I might be able to split this stuff. Is it party time? It's party time.
Heretic fleet engaged.
Okay, that seems to just be going right through the shields. Oh, wow. So we lost 2 destroyers out of that, but that actually didn't last that long. So I'm going to queue those up right away. You know, don't even worry about the heal, just... And then I should make sure that I redirect one of my science ships. So I'm going to turn you off of Auto Explore. We'll get you to finish surveying here. And then I'm going to get them to research and survey. We should hopefully have that done before... Actually, while I'm at it, let's get them focusing, because I think that will be all of my... like what I consider to be my domain. That's not entirely true. The prisms will be done, but at the very least, I can get them start picking up the. I can get them to start picking up the different species on my scavenger hunt.
Anomaly found.
One of the small moonlets orbiting this gas giant has been identified as a promising mining site. A more thorough survey will have to be conducted to determine whether a mining operation would be feasible or not. By the way, I hate asking this question because I have been watching a streamer who I try to support as much as I can, but they have been complaining quite a bit about the number of people present. So please understand I'm asking this question just as a matter of practical point.
Our ships have been improved.
I've noticed chat is a little more quiet tonight than it normally is around this point. If it's voluntary lurking, please let me, that's fine. I'm totally fine with that. But if somebody's willing to just confirm that chat is working, that I can read stuff, I would appreciate that. Just so that I can register to myself, yes, it's not a problem. So, yep, okay, perfect, Night Valiant. Yeah, it's again. So please, when I ask that, that is not me asking more people to participate in chat. I actually really appreciate you doing that for me. Paper Duplis and Olaf. I've reconnected to chat message a few times. Okay, so. Here's the thing. Okay, Olaf has said what I did. So I saw a reconnected to chat message pop up for myself once. And it made me worry that I had missed some chat messages. But then I was able to do my little test message and it seemed to work. And the thing is I know a lot of people like to lurk. So I actually thank so many of you for taking the time to say that. Again, I don't mind lurking at all. The problem is because there was that technical sign that I got from Twitch. I wanted a little bit of verification there. So, and Neutrino V, hey, thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. Again, I'm sorry to bring you all out. Again, I understand the context of this because is no shortage of streams that's going to harangue you for chat participation. Please feel free to continue lurking. I'm not gonna abuse the privilege anymore. You gave me what I needed to know, and I really appreciate that. Although, of course, for those of you who do want to participate in chat, please do not feel a need to stay quiet. I can do both. All right, Zron, even more. Strange Crystal. We have learned the fate of the Zronai. When the Saviors learned of the Divine's plan, they knew that there was only one possible counter to the Divine's almost impenetrable defenses in the Shroud. Faced with annihilation, they chose to sacrifice their entire population save for one Zronai. The last remaining Savior used the psionic residue of the entire species to destroy every Zronai, and thus every Divine in existence, ending the threat for all time. The Zronai were wiped out almost without a trace, save for a small amount of unconsumed dust. And there's still more! Sorry, I don't do a lot of Spiritualist Empires, and when I do, I don't normally get the Zronai event. So this is fun for me. I'm learning things. Our
ships have been improved. Construction complete.
All right. More power. Precious Moon, a more detailed scan of one of the many natural satellites orbiting the gas giants of Pythagore 5 has revealed a deposit of precious metals and minerals that was overlooked in the initial survey. Although this moon is very small, it has a stable orbit around its primary and appears tectonically stable. So, extra money. And it's in a world that I will claim for myself. So you mentioned on Steam for a new promo for Cultist Simulator. Interesting what they released. Yes! I don't know what it will cost. Given the fact that it seems to be a very limited run, I have a feeling it will probably be a little bit more than I'm willing to, to spend. Not because I don't value it, but just because I know I already struggle to get tabletop stuff underway for myself, and I feel that while I may have the means, it's not just a question of, is it worth it for me as a product, but is denying someone who will actually get use out of it a good thing to do? That's the other question. Again, I'll see. But lots of announcements, and the funny thing is that most people in chat actually knew more than I did, because I was trying to catch up on sleep, and excuse me. I pretty much went straight to the broadcast without reading the announcement. So, and again, to those of you who are looking for that message on Twitter, I actually really do apologize for that. I had worked out my plan for how to let people know without letting people know ahead of time, because I was actually under something of an NDA for that. I was able to say that I would be doing something, but the problem is that if I say I'm going to be on a Steam page, everybody knows what game that's going to be. And the problem with that is, particularly if there is something related to a sale going on, and Steam doesn't want you to announce a sale ahead of time or whatever, yeah, technically I didn't tell anyone, but I kind of told people. So the way that I handled it was I had a timed YouTube video that just it went live, and I said, if you can see this video, it means I'm live, and I will take the video down when the stream is done. And the problem is that I know you can do that on Twitter, but I didn't think to put that up for Twitter because I was too busy trying to think about how I could let the YouTube people know they could catch a stream. So yeah, we'll see. And yeah, I have no idea what the future plans are. Hopefully they will. But I also know there were some Kickstarter rewards which have remained Kickstarter rewards. They have not undermined the value of that particular artifact by releasing it. You can still get the Cultist USBs, but those USBs do not contain the design documents like the Kickstarter backers got. So, but I'm sure they'll answer that stuff on the Discord closer to release. All right, some kind of unknown structures are floating in this gas giant's upper atmosphere. They appear to be using aerostatic lift to remain buoyant. All right, Starbase, that's fine. Patrigor is surveyed. We've got a slave, so we will buy them and put them in Lemsa. Should double check that Lemsa is not getting overwhelmed. Nope, we're still good for industry. In fact, we're actually also falling behind on consumer goods, so it's probably just as well that I'm filling up those factories. I do also get a chance to upgrade the building. It's now one of our larger worlds. Actually, now wouldn't be a bad time for me to review the Empire. So I probably do want to eventually build another building. I'm kind of hoping, though, that the research complex will help out there. Caster's got 7, we're fine. Intham 7, Gribben 2. Okay. I'm gonna push it a little bit more. You know what? Actually, our food has been falling pretty quickly, so I am gonna do another farming slot for them. We can upgrade this colony. Lemsa, we're already upgrading. I don't want to upgrade the science buildings until I have to. We've got 4 jobs on Wentwork. Wentwork is kind of the crown jewel because of the Gaia world and all of these great little stats on it. Epsilon Indy has 2 jobs, but we're building a temple, so that's going to solve itself. The Forge world can get a planetary administration, so we're fine there. 2 jobs available here. This is an industrial world, so why not? Although, again, could become a farming world as well. Actually, that's a fairly important point. Like, I don't have a lot of other good candidates for farming worlds. I suppose the Gaia world would make more sense for that, though. 4 jobs here, so we're okay with that. Bureaucratic center, we've got more than enough work, and the colony is loading up. Okay, we're ready to go there.
Our ships have been improved.
Only 7 more times to hear that notification. Oh. Senate is now in session. Okay. Everybody wants regulatory facilitation, so this is going to mean that there is an overall reduction in habitability. Now, I'm going to have some ways around that, so I'm not too worried about it. And it's going to boost my diplomatic weight from economy as well as resource outputs. Now, the thing that's important for me here is that it's not going to completely solve my issues in terms of being able to have more diplomatic influence. So, for instance, if we take a look at the economy of the I wanted to call it the Vitruvian Hive, but I believe that would be Roman architecture or a drawing of a human. The Vitresis Hive. So if I do a comparison here, their current economy is 722 compared to my 485. So they are still going to, they're still going to have an edge as far as, you know, as far as things are concerned for me. But that's fine. Like I'm actually at this point less worried about, unless there's something that will effectively double my diplomatic weight. There's really nothing that's going to help me unseat the Vitresis Hive that isn't just me growing more powerful as an empire. What does matter, though, is if I compare myself to something like the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation. They're at 477. I'm at 485. That means that the more... So basically, if I can put more into economy and less into... Or sorry, if I can boost the value of economy more, that means that I get an edge over these guys. I think I'm actually... outdoing... No, I'm not outdoing them on tech yet. So this is great. So something like Comfort the Fallen blunts their edge as far as technology is concerned. So the more that we can sort of build the more that we can structure the Senate around some of my advantages, the more power I'm going to wield. And so when the time comes for there to be a council, it's more likely I'm going to have a seat on that council. And then, of course, you know, we just kind of continue to try and push our own agenda. So this is one of these cases here where even though I'm the 3rd in terms of ranking, as long as I'm able to build the appropriate alliances and as long as I'm able to try and push through legislation that will improve my overall diplomatic weight, I can push myself into a situation where I wind up being more effective in the long run. This is incidentally, so when you take a look at the Charter of Workers' Rights, as a whole, this is actually a very good thing, right? You get bonuses to worker happiness, and there's extra weight to political power. Well, I mean, again, assuming that your worker class is sufficiently happy. But it gives diplomatic weight from pops. Well, let's take a look at who has, like, what the values for pops are. 404 for the Hive, 531 for I'll consider our immediate rivals, 518 for us. And so if we support the Charter of Workers' Rights, it means that I'm empowering my rivals. Likewise, banning the organic slave trade. In this case here, this is denying me my opportunity to buy workers. It's denying me my opportunity to buy back some of my citizens and put them to work on Lemsa. And then repealing the pan-galactic recycling initiatives. Well, what's going on with that? It's actually not a bad idea for me to double-check some of this stuff to make sure that this is still in line with my goals. So, actually, in this case here, the original reason I wanted it was to try and lower my consumer goods consumption. I can actually probably get by without needing to worry about this anymore. So what would the next level be? The next level would be natural sanctuaries. So this would even further blunt the weight from economy. Lower amenities usage, build speeds would go down, food would go up. Yeah, this like just kills. Meticulous caretaking of our worlds, we can live in ecological harmony. It should be our goal to leave only memories behind where we tread. Interesting. I might actually be willing to repeal the recycling initiatives. It served its purpose.
Our ships have been improved.
For those of you thinking this is a horrible way of thinking, remember there's a new deal or a new update for
Our ships
Industries
have
of
been
Titan
improved.
coming out tomorrow. So to hear more incredibly amoral views on the state of the world, tune in Wednesday. Aerostat Colonies. A ruined network of aerostat colonies dating back to at least 3 millennia can be found in low orbit around this gas giant. In low orbit of this gas giant. Their original function appears to have been gas mining, but they have since been abandoned and reoccupied by many different races and pirate groups. The colonies have been thoroughly stripped of anything even remotely valuable, but the mere fact that they are still aloft after all this time makes them an interesting subject of engineering research. So again, this is a pretty valuable system, all told. It doesn't have any worlds for me to colonize, but it's pretty rich in terms of research. So again, taking this arm of the galaxy isn't something that I want to completely ignore.
Have been improved.
But there are some practical considerations just in terms of what I have access to. Also, simply just being able to close some of these gaps would be sort of nice. Another thing I'd really like to do is to try and boost up my bureaucratic centers. Being able to get those things up and running and, like
System
lowering this
survey
gap
complete.
in terms of empire sprawl would be nice. We're sort of on track because we're back to building temples and research, but I feel like there's still more work for us to do. All right, so the archaeological site is finished, and we're at the end of the story of the Zrona. I think I'm going to actually repeat this one beginning to end, because I feel like there's some useful information here, given that we've made contact with the Shroud. As our expedition made ready to leave, one of the psionic crystals suddenly re-established contact. It has indicated that it could prove useful to us should we decide to bring it with us. Even if the claim is untrue, none of the other crystals we encountered showed signs of sapience. This could warrant further investigation. Take the crystal, and we've got the relic. Oh, this is cool. All right, so let's redo the story. This is the story of Zron, which is a shrouded world. This looks beautiful, by the way. So we're investigating the Zroni homeworld. Zron is racked by storms of psionic energy and appears to only be partially in phase with the rest of the universe. Whatever calamity befell the Zroni seems to have originated here. Like all previous colonies, it is devoid of Zroni, but is teeming with crystalline signals. Given this much signal noise, on top of the strange atmospheric conditions, it may take some time for us to locate any useful information. We have found and communicated with several crystals, including one from the outcast Shroud Entity researchers. With these, we are learning more about the Zronai's war. Using the Zrodust required great sacrifice from the Saviors, but with it, they were able to turn the tide of their war against the Divine. As their defeat loomed, the ever-increasing rage and fear of the Divine spawned new and terrible entities within the Shroud. The feedback loop grew, pushing the Divine into the depths of madness. They were driven to ever-worsening atrocities, urging the Saviors to end the war at any cost. As we communicate with more crystals, more details emerge. On the brink of defeat, the Divine decided upon their ultimate plan, the end of the cycle. The growth of the black hole galactic core would be accelerated to consume the galaxy as soon as possible. At worst, the Saviors, and every other species in the galaxy, would be destroyed, leaving the Divine to rule the Shroud for a vast but finite time. It was, however, possible that the expansion would become self-sustaining, consuming not just the galaxy, but the universe itself, providing a source of energy which may not be infinite, but would at least come close enough come close enough amount to make no practical difference. I feel like there is a grammatical component there that's missing. We have learned the fate of the Zronai. When the Saviors learned of the Divine's plan, they knew that there was only one possible counter to the Divine's almost impenetrable defenses in the Shroud. Faced with annihilation, they chose to sacrifice their entire population, save for one Zronai. The last remaining Savior used the psionic residue of an entire species to destroy every Zronai, and thus every Divine in existence, ending the threat for all time. The Zronai were wiped out, almost without a trace, save for a small amount of unconsumed dust. As our expedition made ready to leave, one of the psionic crystals suddenly re-established contact. It indicated that it could prove useful to us should we decide to bring it with us. Even if the claim is untrue, none of the other crystals we encountered showed signs of sapience. This could warrant further investigation. I wonder if this is the last Zronai in this crystal. We'll see. So, we've got our first relic. Let me just take a second to sneeze. Excuse me. Also, I think we can proclaim a religious revelation. I wish I would get a notification that these things are ready to go. It's, I think, 10 years. So what does this thing do for us? So, passive effect, the cooldown to breach the Shroud is reduced by 50%. Oh, man. I really gotta follow through on that soon. Active effect, contact the spirit either Baxty or Baxley to seek guidance in different matters. Okay, so let's do Proclaim Religious Revelation. One, because it just gives me extra unity, but also because it gives me Spiritualist Ethics Attraction, which is one of my better tended ethics. So celebrate diversity. It's actually kind of tempting here to. So this is a really interesting trade-off that you get. In this case, we could use these artifacts to celebrate diversity, and again. This gives me 500 unity, but the catch is that it improves xenophile ethics attraction, and that's not necessarily something I'm willing to swallow. I'm not actually set up to be xenophilic, and chances are they're going to have problems with slavery, so I don't necessarily want to, I don't quite want to bring myself into, into a state, where I'm creating unrest. Basically, the unity that I'm gaining is potentially going to introduce political disunity, and so I'm more reluctant to bring that one on board. I am, however... Oh, it's a special project, though. Let's do it. Special project unlocked. Our scientists have begun a special project to study the deeper secrets of the precursors. Acknowledged. So that's 6,000. And what are we giving up to do that again? Boost research from research. It's only 3 months though. I'll wait. Let's hit the Psionic Archive. Oh man, I like this image. The Soul Stone, pulsing with inner light, seems to wordlessly beckon. We touch it, and our minds are drawn into a pocket dimension of the Shroud, where the enigmatic entity called Ja Baxti awaits. It knows things no mortal being could know, and seems willing to share its secrets now that we have reached its sanctum. So we can ask for an insight, for experience. We can ask about matters martial, so we would get a 20% bonus to weapons damage, Or we can ask about matters of state, bonus to stability, edict costs, and governing ethics. Oh, that's pretty good. Let's ask about matters of state. Okay, so it's going to take us a while, but that's a good one. Hey, achievement unlocked. Dust it off. Complete the Zronai precursor chain. Told you I haven't done it before.
Our ships have been improved.
I know I've been playing this game for a while, but I have a set of things that I do, and then of course there's always the random chances of certain events. So I like that I still have chances to. I like that I still kind of have chances to discover new things.
Our ships have been improved. The spirits have granted us new wisdom.
All right, so many things. Xenobiology, studying the life that arises on other worlds and beyond, allows us to understand the fundamental aspects of biology that were previously beyond our reach. So an additional civic slot is pretty cool. Lower crime, less important for me. I don't really think we have a big crime problem. Oh yeah, so what was I going to try to do? I think I was debating on trying Psionic Army. Yeah, let's do it. But before we do that, I'm going to finally do the delve into the secrets of the Zronai. At some point, I'd also like to breach the Shroud, but that is a bit expensive, so I figure getting the boost to my social research would be a nice sort of first detail. Okay, our first domination tech. So we can boost our governor leader cap, we can improve the housing and capital buildings, we could reduce crime. It's probably more important what tech gets unlocked. So extended shifts to boost the resource output of workers and slaves. That sounds pretty good. Yeah, so Judgment Core isn't all that important to me right now, but being able to get the workplace motivators is. So I'm going to do Judgment Core first. Sprawling cities and isolated mining stations both have unique challenges associated with crime prevention. To expedite law enforcement, we have made the judicial process more efficient by combining the roles of judge, jury, and enforcer. It unlocks the edict, enhanced surveillance. Enforcers reduce crime by an additional 20%. I'm not actually going to use this, but it is going to unlock workplace motivation, which will be a little more useful to me. And while time goes by, I'm just going to take another quick audit of the Empire. Most things are where they are. I think if I see a world... So worlds with 2 are ones I want to pay attention to, and if I don't have... If I don't have a firm game plan in terms of dealing with the two the two available jobs, I want to take the time to build the infrastructure for it. I'm gonna go take Akamar. This isn't really the most desirable planet for me to grab, but it is the last gap on this arm of the galaxy, and then I can just focus everything in here. I'm gonna make so Dram is a high priority because of its strategic resource, and at that point, Depair becomes attractive as well. So there are a couple of inefficiencies that I'm going to be doing in terms of the acquiring different planets, but I can. I think as a whole, I'm willing to take that on, just because I think being able to. Being able to ignore it, like essentially what I'm doing is I'm saving myself the time of sending construction ships to deal with this later, is kind of how I view those expansions. Again, one really high priority right now is to deal with the Empire Sprawl, because that's going to make my research more efficient. What in heaven's name is going on here? I have unemployed specialists. That is insane. Well, I suppose the question would be, do I want to boost my forges now, or do I think it's better to resettle them? This would actually be the first resettlement that I'm doing, and I'm taking it away from... Well, it's planetary cap... Well, no, hang on. Planetary capital has a requirement for 10, doesn't it? Let's see what would happen here. Ooh, it has an influence cost as well. You know what? I'm gonna reshape the planet accordingly. I didn't think I could have that that balance be upset. That's a little surprising. So there may be sort of an unspoken liability waiting on these worlds here in terms of how I've composed everything. I mean, I could also just let it decay into a standard worker, but I don't actually think that's a desirable outcome. Oop, looks like there's a new resolution up. Form the Galactic Council. Yeah, so Galactic Council of 3 members. I definitely feel reasonably secure about my presence, so I will support forming the Galactic Council in this case, particularly because it looks like, with regulatory facilitation, I may not necessarily overcome the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation, but I'm definitely going to be sort of improving my position. Another thing that's worth considering is this. So let's just take a look what's on the docket. So Charter of Workers' Rights, I oppose. Worst that can happen from that is just a... Actually, no, sorry. My opponents can become stronger if that thing gets approved. Ban the organic slave. So it's also, I think, fairly... I don't know if it'll tell me what the diplomatic support. So the Talakur and the Zaxoids both support it. I don't know if that means that they oppose it or if the others oppose it or not. But this potentially strengthens the... So as far as the Zaxoids are concerned, they're going to be strengthened by the Charter of Workers' Rights. Nothing happens with banning the organic slave trade. It's really just a question in terms of whether or not I can get access to workers for money. And it would be good for me to have repealing the Pangalactic recycling initiatives. Unfortunately, one drawback on this one is that it's at the bottom of the list. So this might improve my political position, but it would happen after an event which has the So, like this, basically the best I can hope for is these things canceling each other out. And what is more likely to happen is the Form Galactic Council measure is going to come up. Let's say I do something to try and stop this from happening, like the Charter of Workers' Rights happens, let's say that passes, and then I have to go into the Galactic Council vote at a time. So essentially we accomplished what we wanted by sort of savaging the vote last time. We've been able to strengthen ourselves and make sure that we get a seat on the council. And then the next step here is going to be to try and improve my diplomatic power to a point where we can reduce the Galactic Council size to 2 once I feel safe enough in my own position. So here, because I know I'm going to get a seat, I'm now okay with forming the Galactic Council. All right, forest research. We have learned a great deal by living in proximity to the wandering forests on Ibleria Prime. Some enterprising colonists have even built homes in the treetops of some of the larger specimens, following the forests around as they migrate across the moon. Some of the foremost biologists in the Black Codex have spent time studying these unique trees. So 5,848 social research. That's not too bad, given that I am currently working on the secrets of the Zronai. I think that's what it does. Maybe it just puts it towards the research. I never did figure out if that's how that mechanic works. Looks like there's more upgrades. And you can sort of see that we're teasing the edge of what I can accomplish consumer goods-wise. That's kind of why I didn't completely reverse course on these extra industrial worlds. I have a feeling that this is going to be a tension that is true for this empire for a while. I am, of course, generating a lot as far as alloys are concerned, so I'm pretty happy with where we're at here. But it is something I just want to keep it's something I want to keep an eye on. Okay, so it looks like I have been doing a pretty good job maintaining things within my borders. Let's keep going to... I'm still doing sort of my improvement run. It's worth remembering I'm down to 74 influence, so every new station I build means that I can't build it somewhere else, and I got to think about whether or not it's really worth it to grab any one of these individual worlds. So Elithor is tempting because it gives me access to Bralix, for the same reason that Bowtine is actually Yinin. Because Yinin might be able to capture some of this trade value, Bowtine is slightly more attractive. Also, the argument for Bralix is that it gives me access to sort of all three here, although I've already got access on this one, so it's really the fact that I would get access to Farragon. The biggest argument for Farragon is that it has quite a few minerals, which, as you've noticed, isn't really a worry in this empire right now. Whereas, when I'm taking a look at what I can get sort of at the edge of the galaxy, the ability to get exotic gases, huge improvement. That's going to be driving my improvements to research as my population grows. Akamar, again, there's no good argument for me to take this here other than the fact that it's on the way. So by building something on Akamar, I don't need to come to this branch of the galaxy again. Unless an event, pops up another improvement. Okay, let me just make sure everybody's working on what they need. So this is Starbase Upgrades. I don't care about those. They've been fully repaired. They can probably also get upgraded, but let's make sure. So the Kanila Space Fleet, that's a derelict cruiser. Where is the Korim Starfleet? There we go. Those are my destroyers. Oh, and my existing Starfleet's getting upgrades, so I can't touch them yet. I'm going to take the Decini Starfleet. I am going to upgrade them when I can, but I only have... right now I've only got one shipyard, so I don't want to have my patrols kind of wind up canceled just because I'm waiting for a queue. All right, more industrial work. So I'm going to pause for some more refreshment. Not pause the game, but pause talking so I can have a little more tea.
Our ships have been improved. Special project complete.
Secrets of the Zroni. We've successfully managed to integrate the Zroni artifacts into our own research process. Their insights into psionic study will greatly aid our own. So 10,000 social research. That's great because I believe that's going to help us with telepathy. And we get a plus 10% to psionics, so that was absolutely the right call. So 22 months remaining if I want to pursue the psionic army. Or I can, I can delay it. So essentially it's going to be 2 years that we delay our psionic armies by in order to breach the Shroud. How soon do I want to go down this? Because I actually don't know what breaching the Shroud will do, and I really don't want to sort of spoil things for myself. You are meddling with forces beyond your comprehension. Yeah, let's do it. If we are to communicate with the denizens of the psychic realm known as the Shroud, we'll have to unleash an incredible amount of psionic energy. Preparations have been made for a huge seance involving our most powerful psychics in the newly established conclave of telepaths on Quantos. And the music comes up at the right moment. Do I need to be worried about this?
Our ships have been improved. Our ships have been improved.
So one thing I'm a little disappointed in is just the pace at which I'm earning my energy credits. I really do want to start doing some more terraforming soon. Oh, good lord. The science ship's been sitting idle the whole time. So expedition-wise, I think we are good. I don't think there's anything else for me to do. So I suppose at this point I should probably just put it on autopilot. Well, not exactly. I'll get them to research this project. I'll get them to pick up some of the, the loose change, let's say. So I think there's still...
Our ships have been improved.
There's going to be one more species that I need to grab. I feel like I had a science ship around here at some point. I probably should have picked up the research while I was there. We are on reasonable enough terms with people. The thing is, abusing the wormhole might be a way that I wind up getting those borders closed on me. You know what? It's a free ship, so let's get them to... I'll get them to do this research first.
Our ships have been improved.
You know what? I could have used the control shift to put that on the top of the queue.
The spirits have granted us new wisdom.
All right, I am interested. The Research Institute. All right, this is definitely something I was looking for. So, a bid for interplanetary resource pools and more flexible research grants. Okay. Let's see here. I think between an antimatter reactor and subspace sensors, I almost always prefer subspace sensors. But then the question is, am I letting my physics tech run away with me? So 34 months versus 26. Not so much. This is kind of useful now, given that we're getting some exotic gases and we have a few more coming online. But I think in this case here I'm going to do the subspace sensors just because it is actually kind of helpful in terms of anticipating problems. And anticipating problems, for me at least, is sort of the name of the game here. One of the biggest things for a lot of strategy games for me is that I'm not necessarily all that good of a tactician. For the most part, whenever I play a given strat, I mean, I probably don't need to explain that, by the way. I think most people have kind of figured that out. One big edge I tend to have is in a few games, I'm able to build some kind of initial advantage that at that point, I don't need to be very sophisticated in tactics because I've created sort of either an economy that will just produce this endless horde of high-level units that can just be thrown into the maw, or just otherwise there is some other advantage that I have gained, which means that I don't necessarily need to think that deeply about some of the things that I've been trying to do anymore. I know that sounds really terrible, but that is kind of generally how I approach some of this stuff. And so again, when I say it's an advantage for me to be able to to anticipate things, it is kind of central to how I will play these kinds of games, just because, being able to see, for instance, that my enemy unit. So this is a trick that I used to do, and it seems that the new espionage rules have made this a little less effective. Well, let's give this a shot. Okay, so let's just take a look at their fleet here. So yeah, I don't have enough intel to know their ship design. I wish I could find a civilian ship. So it used to be the case that I would look at their science ships. And this was the really important thing for me was the fact that you can look at a fleet. So I'll just give you, I'm not going to say that this is like a strategy you want to do in a multiplayer game or anything like that, but let's think a little bit about how you might convince an enemy. So let's say that we were playing a multiplayer game, and the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation has a claim on my territory. Let's say that there wasn't a non-aggression pact. They see that there is a reasonably meaty defense here on Mestros, so 9.4k. I wonder if it'll tell me the value. Yeah, so this is 10 242, and they've got little pockets of other, so they've got 15k. They should be able to take out this defensive structure. And their question is like, okay, so I'm gonna need to spend a lot of effort to break through Mestros. And let's just, for practical considerations, let's say that either Wesen is not a potential area for them to breach, or they have reason to believe that there is as strong of a defense there as, as on Mestros. Let's say I'm in a position where I actually want them to attack me because I've got some tech. I've figured out, or I think I figured out what their fleet composition is like. And so while we might be slightly comparable in terms of naval strength, I know that I've got the edge as far as what kinds of ships I'm going to be sending after them. Obviously, at that point, it would be pretty desirable for me to try and provoke a war. And, I could just declare war, sure. But maybe, that's showing my hand. Or more importantly, if I declare war, then I have to go crossing into their territory, and I need to go and try and claim the stuff that I want. And obviously, those ships are pretty far away. So they might be able to realize, oh my goodness, they have got something that is sort of a perfect, it's like a perfect answer to our own fleets. Like, we can't take them on at that point. Like, we'll willingly give up this ground in order to retool and be able to come in and smash them. So, you can see some reasons why it would be really advantageous to try and provoke them to come in and smash Mestros. And one way that you might be able to get an opponent to do that, and again, like, I have played a couple of multiplayer games where this sort of thing, there is a sort of a leading indicator that this might have been what the player was doing, but you can never know what's in somebody's head. But one of the big things for me was that, I can keep a fleet in a visible range, and that fleet has outdated tech. Like, you can't do something too incredible, right? So, we can't be at this point in the game and the fleet's all level 1 tech. At that point, someone's like, yeah, okay, either he just didn't bother upgrading that fleet, or, he's trying to get away with something. But, something that's sort of like, oh, okay, yeah, I could totally take that stuff. Like, that's probably not his main stack, but, like, that is a ship design that I think I can handle. And if you can instill that kind of confidence, they're going to take their ships. They're obviously going to position themselves to do that attack on Mestros. And they're going to think that it's like, yeah, it's going to be hard to take this, but once we take this, we know that our fleet is going to be able to handle what they, what they're going to throw at us in retaliation. And this is the important point, is that what you have done is, outside of sensor range, you have got your fleet that you actually want the... you're actually kind of prepared. So my real fleet would, be over here on the capital world, and you'd fly them into Mestros. And of course, they're already caught, right? They're already in the middle of the fight, or they're already sort of deep into your territory, and you actually take the fight that you wanted. And then, of course, in this case, you annihilate their main fleet. Now you get to go on the offensive. Now you get to pick up. Now you get to sort of pick up your gains. So then I said, okay, well, if somebody tried to do that with me, like, how would I get around it? And the counter that I used to have was, if you check out the civilian ships, so either the construction ship or the science ship, that's always going to have the best version of their tech. So for instance, right now, I would say, anybody who wants to wipe out my empire would do very well to equip as many beam weapons as they could, because if you take a look, like, under my ship design, I still love the fact that these are called the Doe. Like, I'm still on level 2 deflectors, and like that's my best deflector tech, right? Level 4 level 4 armor, but my deflectors are nothing. And so, if the enemy actually comes with a lot of lasers, I'm in trouble. So that's actually why I really do need to be worrying about my, my research and making sure that I'm closing this gap on the chance that I need to deal with, with energy attacks. But you know, this would be the point here where, under the old system, if I could look at a civilian ship, I could say, "Holy smokes, they only have level 2 shields. Like they're not going to be able to come back from that quickly." And so, you know, at that point, that was, to me at least, you know, being able to check the ships that I knew, you know, I knew would have you know, would basically be auto upgraded with each tech level, would be how I would actually know the strength that the enemy had. So I'm interested in what Paper Douglas has to say here. So there's a somewhat silly multiplayer strat where you start queuing up a massive fleet, but right before the ship finishes, you move it to the bottom of the queue, saves you the upkeep, and lets you massively spike your fleet power with no notice. Yeah, that's another good one. I mean, again, it's a I guess that one's probably a little bit more robust to the changes in Nemesis, because you still have the broad strokes measures. Like, obviously I have some pretty good intel on these guys, right? In fact, I think, yeah, I can see their fleet power on here. I guess that takes quite a bit of micro to manage, or like to be able to handle, though, right? Like, I suspect the way I play this, I just forget to like bump them out of the queue, and all of a sudden I've got a huge fleet deficit. Oh yeah, sorry, wasn't checking this out. Anybody home? Where is this? Nowhere even close to something I can check out, so we're not going to worry about it. There was another thing I wanted to check out here. Right, the Research Institute, because we're running out of jobs. Okay, Research Institute on Quantos. I'll probably know which ones are the science worlds just by whether or not there's a science ship in orbit, but... So I'm not touching this one. Actually, it's not bad to do a proper audit now. So 649, 64. Oh, they're not yet a planetary capital. Need 6 more citizens. Okay. Well, we'll just reserve the slot for when they're ready to get that. 5, 13, 3, 4, 6. And then the other thing I want to be looking at is, okay, so all of my Forge worlds and Industrial worlds need to have their multipliers. So this one should have a minute. Wait, what? Oh, yeah, planetary capital. Just because I want it doesn't mean I can have it. This one's ready to go, though. This is actually a particularly good one for me. So this does have a volatile motes upkeep, but we've got 8 of them, so I'm good. So yeah, this is really helpful here because this is an industrial world. This is one of these things that I'm running short of. I don't think this is yet a planetary capital. This almost certainly is not. Yeah, the rest of this is fine. My favorite, actually, in terms of multiplayer stuff, I still know my favorite. And this is largely just because the player wasn't paying attention, as opposed to like any cleverness on my part. But I did have a wormhole really close to an opponent's. So this opponent had built a coalition against me with all the other players, and I had managed to sort of break the coalition through my honeyed words. So I do eventually need to. So one of the worst things is that. Lemsa is one of the worst places I could be putting these slaves because of the higher pop upkeep. This is also one of my prime candidates for terraforming, but as it is, I did want to hit certain milestones on it. I suppose at this point, though, so Lemsa, 6 jobs left. We've at least got people filling these jobs that I need, so I think the time has come for me to start filling in other worlds. And again, we're doing okay on our Forge worlds. So, Araness, how far are you from being... So you've got a planetary capital. Are you... Why don't you have them in... Oh, because you're not 25 yet. Okay. I think Araness is probably where we want to be focusing our pops now. The words weren't very honeyed, as I recall it. True. But yeah, like breaking the coalition was one thing, but the fact that it was able to
Our ships have been improved.
I think the thing I just enjoyed the most was the realization as the fleets were like pouring through the wormhole, and you just see this straight line moving towards the capital as it's really clear that this guy has moved his fleets towards my towards my front line. That was a very satisfying moment. I didn't feel bad, right? Because like obviously nobody wants to have the rug pulled out from under them, but the aim on that one, even like taking the capital, isn't necessarily the end of the world. The aim on that one was essentially just to try and break the economy so that it would be too much to try and maintain those fleets. And in the end, if you're not able to repair them, or if you're not able to, if you're going to bankrupt yourself, trying to keep that fleet size, I might be losing some things on the periphery. But given the fact that I had this, like, it wasn't necessarily that it was deep into the territory, but it was the fact that I had these pretty secure supply lines, right? Like I already knew where the enemy fleet was, so I knew that I was going to be able to move through those sectors back through the wormhole to get back to the, to the origin point, like a shipyard that was ready to repair everyone. I was feeling more confident in the exchange, but the problem is that like that's really the only good multiplayer story I have, which sort of says that I don't play enough multiplayer. Like if I keep telling that story, I've told that story probably like 9 times on stream now, so it kind of means that just because I got lucky once doesn't mean that I need to be sitting down giving people advice about how multiplayer works. A new faction has recently been gaining traction in the internal political landscape of the Black Codex, led by Governor T. Dakara, and they call themselves the Imitharian Future Movement. Their members seek to assert the primacy of the Imitharian species by curtailing the rights of aliens if necessary. Alright, so I'm definitely going to have factions that are mad at each other in... So actually, let's just take a quick second here. So, extranational authority, extending our influence to dominate subject nations will please the hierarchical union. That is possible. Let's rank these by size. I should be ranking them by size and then trying to... Okay, now, the alien compassion movement is actually a big pain in the neck. So passive stance on native interference. I guess the thing is I could do this to make them happy because I currently don't have any species within my borders. No species-wide slavery. I'm absolutely not doing that. Multicultural society having at least 4 unique species within our empire will please the Compassion Society. Refugees welcome, I'm okay with. Enclaves incorporated, I might do. Land grab objections, well, maybe not. Joining a federation, and no new contacts. Yeah, so it's not just that these people are currently unhappy, but they are going to be quite difficult to make happy. This would actually be one of the points where I would consider suppressing the faction. The drawback on this is that there is a monthly influence cost. And while it does lower the attraction, there is also going to be unhappiness as a result, across those 19 pops. The Committee of Research Efficiency. So we've outlawed AI. Again, these are in competition with the Church of Religious Conservatism. Unfortunately, Dull Edge is something that I'm going to be living with for a while, as long as those hive-minded plants are kicking around. I'd love to do more research agreements. I just don't think people want to. They've got synth envy, they are heretics, and we do have secret knowledge. So that's all well and good. The hierarchical union, I think we already talked about. And then the Imitharian Future Movement. These are the space racists. Imitharian Patriarch, strong alone, invasive Xeno studies, Xenos disenfranchised, no immigration, asserting dominance, and giant massacre. Oh, that's right. Yeah, if we kill a Leviathan, we're okay. So I actually have more in common with the xenophobic faction, but I don't. This is God. This is gonna sound like Russia. It's like they might be convenient political bedfellows, but you don't want to give them too much power because then you can't control them. Yeah. The alien compassion movement is really the one that I'm worried about. Because I feel like the hierarchical union, like what I'd probably normally want to do is I would normally want to promote these guys. I'd sort of want to promote the hierarchical union, suppress the compassion movement. But that would be a total cost of 3 influence, which I really just can't afford right now. Particularly if you look at it here, right? Like, I'm trying to gain the influence from making a faction happy, but it's not entirely clear to me that I'm missing anything. Like in the end, I'm already getting my extra points from these different factions here, and they're all just so small that the marginal effects are not very high. So like in this case, even for something that's 19 pops big, giving up an influence a month at a time where I'm trying to expand as quickly as I can kind of feels like I'm trying to kill a fly with an anvil. So I'm going to leave it alone is basically what I'm saying here.
Our ships have
let's
been
take
improved.
a quick second on Lemsa. Oh, it's easy to turn this to a continental world. Yeah. I mean, I'm not crazy about the amount of money that I just spent there, but this is going to tremendously improve my my efficiency. How are we looking on these worlds, actually? So Lemsa needs a shift.
Our ships have been improved.
All right, Burrow could use a facelift, but
Construction complete.
we'll leave it be for now.
System survey complete.
Yeah, so there's a couple that I might want to terraform. Like 80% is not great, but it's not the end of the world either. I feel like when we're a little more flush with cash, I figure probably terraforming to get like a new a new world will beat trying to will beat improving my existing world. The exception being Lemsa, because I do want Lemsa to be at top productivity. Okay, so the question would be, do I want to go and punch these shards of obsidian first, or do I want to punch the ruby swarm? So the ruby swarm isn't actually within my territory, but I can do it right now. And it's a 12k strength fleet, so why not, right? Next up, the Decini Starfleet, while doing an admirable job combating piracy, is starting to look a little old, so let's just upgrade them. Fortunately, Nova is on the case. Nova is perfectly capable of handling things on their own. They still outrank me. So let's not get that membership number. Oh wait, it's because the regulatory facilitation hasn't happened yet. Should also probably be checking the galactic marketplace a little bit more often. Like, if my species are showing up as slaves, surely some of the other species are as well. I'm trying to think of a way that you could get like a notification that something was available in this, because like I always assume that something's available in this marketplace, right? Here I don't. Okay, well, that answers that. You know, like I get a notification when it's one of my species that's available. But I don't really get a notification when there is something available in the market, full stop. The AI is obviously going to do that because the AI has no problem checking that window, you know, every turn. It's just something that it does. But for me, like as a human being, I'm not going to check. In fact, one of the ways that I learn and I like get better at these kinds of games is by learning what I can safely ignore at any minute. It's why, actually, I think, so I've got a coworker who
System survey
started
complete.
playing Civilization, and I actually really liked the fact that they were trying Civilization because I take Civilization as something of a baseline for me. Like, I've been playing Civilization basically as long as I've been playing video games, or like some version of Civilization, like you know, Civ 3, Civ 4, whatever, you know, I guess like Civ 4 is the one everybody's like. I think some people kind of still consider that to be the peak of the series.
Construction complete.
Okay, right, we're done improving Zron. So I think instead of expanding the borders here, I think I'm gonna start building the replacement research. Well, just the extra research center. I think this was from the Dathnak. Sorry, but yeah, so like this can sound. I don't want to sound as full of myself as when I like as what I'm about to say, but hopefully the idea comes across in a not snooty way. Because I have been playing Civilization for a very long time, I don't find Civilization particularly challenging. There are always new things for me to learn when the game gets an update, or when there's something, you know, there's always going to be something new, right? But I am sometimes a little surprised when I hear Civilization as an example of a game that is difficult to learn. And that's not because I don't think it's difficult to learn, it's just because I have sort of been steeped in Civilization, and so as a result, I have forgotten what it is like to first encounter the game. Because like I was very young when I first encountered Civilization. I had no idea what was going on that screen. I was just fascinated by it, right? I think everybody who's played games for a long time probably has a version of this story that, you know, you maybe weren't old enough to understand what was going on the screen, but you knew it looked really cool and you wanted to know more.
Construction complete.
But sorry, something just popped up on my phone. We're good. But yeah, so you know, taking a look at
Our ships have been improved.
taking a look at my friend and being able to sort of talk with them about this game that I really like, and particularly just sort of hearing that first experience of like, you know, yeah, I did this and I did this and I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z. And like I did my usual
project complete.
I did the usual thing that I do on stream, which is to just, you know, pop up a session, and I got a new achievement, and I actually kind of have to go to the bathroom. I know I don't have that much longer to stream, but I might take a very small break just to, you know, just so I'm not in discomfort for, you know, an hour or so. But yeah, it was really interesting to kind of just sit down, because it was Civilization 5 as well, something that I hadn't played recently, and just being able to sit and talk and sort of talk, you know, specifically give an explanation as to why I was doing certain actions that were automatic. It was neat, and it let me appreciate. It kind of let me appreciate Civilization a little bit more. The other thing that's been really telling for me, I've also totally forgotten why I got on this topic, but I tried playing a game called Shadow Empire. And I actually really want to play it more because it looks fascinating. It's one of these Slytherin 4X style games. But playing Shadow Empire actually has helped me appreciate how well how well done Civilization is. Like, I understand Civilization is not the easiest game for people to get into, but compared to other 4X style games, which basically assume that you are going to read a manual that's over 100, potentially multiple hundreds of pages long, I think it's actually very impressive how little you need to actually look up in Civilization to sort of get it. But again, right, one thing that I sort of realized in being able to talk about Civilization to my friend was to just be able to say, you know, if you look at this and you want to understand every number on the screen at once, you are going to feel overwhelmed and it's not going to be fun. But also remember, like, when you start the game, what do you start with? You start with a warrior and a settler, right? You don't need to worry about where you're going to put your tanks because you don't have tanks yet. You know, worry about where do you want to build your first city, you know, and then, you know, it's your first game. Don't expect to win, you know, just expect to learn something. So you build a city. Well, what if you built the city in the wrong spot? Well, it means that you're probably going to find that your production's not very good. And if you find that that is that problem, take a second to look at the map and say, where would it have been better for me to put this city if I could have? And you know, do that sort of thing. So yeah, absolutely, Olaf. I mean, like, they're wonderful games across so many different dimensions. But Eyes of Sin, I am so happy to see you here. I am actually I'm going to follow through on my threat. I am actually going to run away very quickly. You arrived just in time for a seance, but the Force is with me, so I am going to be back in just a second or two. I'll leave you with the wonderful soundtrack, but I do need a minute to myself, so I will see you all in a little bit. In the meantime, please do check out the Eyes of Sin stuff. She is the one responsible for my emotes and lots of fancy art, and I appreciate that she is also very shy. So I'll maybe, if nothing else, just so that I am actually kind of feeling the pressure now. But basically, just so I don't put her on at the spot too much, the Eyes of Sin, I think, is a very gifted artist, somebody who has talents across drawing, photography, and also has done professional voice acting. Is available for commission. I think the Twitter is the best that you can reach for if you are looking to basically hire them for work. But if you just want to appreciate the art, you can check out the Twitter for whatever artworks have been put up on social media. There's a Tumblr, which isn't updated as frequently, but it is a nice little archive of some of the previous work. And then there's a Coffee page, which has some more recent work. And that is a spot where, even if you're not necessarily in a position to hire the Eyes of Sin, Coffee is a way that you can support artists who are putting out their work. It's a little bit like Patreon, except it doesn't have like a regular recurring subscription unless you want it to. Basically, I believe a coffee starts at $5 US. You can give as many or as few of those as you would like. And of course, everybody is around. They're always asking for your attention. They're always asking for your money. I think at the very least, all that Amanda would ask is a chance to sort of delight you with their art. But for those of you who do have the means and would like to make sure more stuff like that comes into the world, I would love it if you would consider buying Amanda a coffee or two, because they're somebody who I certainly have every intention of hiring for my next little batch of work. But I know that I'm not enough to sort of keep them ready to go. This is how Eyes of Sin does make a living. So that's one of the reasons why I always like taking the time to shout them out and their art. I should mention, though, it does occasionally come on stream. So if you follow that Twitch account, you will also get a chance to see. You also get a chance to see some cool video games being played. All right, I'm running off. See you in hopefully less than a minute. Alright, my apologies. I hope you're doing well, the Eyes of Sin. Actually, I hope you're all doing very well out in chat, but I don't always get a chance to chat with Eyes of Sin, and I'm always happy to see that name pop up in chat. The Seance. After days of being locked in a hypnotic trance, our psychics in the conclave of telepaths have finally managed to open a brief gateway into the Shroud. Now that we have established an initial psionic link, we will be able to access the Shroud through the contacts menu in the future. To make any kind of meaningful forays into this realm to meet the beings who dwell there, we will likely have to make use of special psionic emitters to extend our psychic reach. This will consume a tremendous amount of energy. Time to reach and see what we find. The Shroud. The Shroud. It is unbelievably strange and unsettling, but also immediately familiar. Anyone with psionic powers will have seen this place in their dreams, though they likely did not know it at the time. We linger now at the precipice of this realm, not far from the empty void of the in-between that serves as a boundary between here and normal space, or what we would call the real world. To venture deeper into the Shroud will require a great effort on the part of our telepaths, as well as a large amount of energy. We must not dally, even now. We are being watched. So we can reach into the Shroud for 1,000 credits, or exit the Shroud. Now, this is not the best financial decision, but yeah, let's reach into it. Quantos. The vision is hazy and indistinct, but there can be no question. It is Quantos, our capital. The great cities look different yet familiar, even though through the obscuring wall of flames and smoke. Thousands, no millions of mutilated bodies litter the streets, all of them Emutherian. The stench of decay is unbearable. Your future. Nothing living remains in the ruins. In the sky above, massive orbital installations, trailing smoke, have begun a slow and inevitable descent towards the planet. Are we witnessing one possible future out of many? Not one of many. It shall come to pass, as surely as the sun rises. It is your destiny. The vision ends as quickly as it began, leaving behind a miasma of swirling psychic energies. So we can channel the energies into an avatar, high probability of success. If successful, an avatar of pure psychic energy will manifest in our universe, and it will be fully under our control. Boon ship repair. If successful, the energies of the Shroud will be channeled into a powerful boon that has a positive effect on our entire empire, or exit the Shroud. Well, let's do the avatar. The powerful energies of the Shroud have been successfully channeled into a psionic avatar under our control. After translating into our universe, the newborn avatar has coalesced into a spacefaring entity in orbit over Quantos. What did I get? Whoa. Alright, so this thing's got 9k power. Looks like it's slow. I wonder if this thing's really good at protecting shipping lanes. Alright. Oh, and it takes 16, so this is going to destroy my my upkeep, but new friend, no consequences.
Debris analyzed.
We've analyzed the debris in Craxima, Cloud Lightning conduits, 10% progress, physics research, 20 points.
The spirits have granted us new wisdom.
The largest of the standard military vessels, battleships, are traditionally heavy armored and sport several gun batteries. Alright, so I do want to prioritize shields wherever I can, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to sort of do so at the exclusion of everything else. Let's do a little bit of mopping up. As nice as it would be to have armored torpedoes, I think at this point we can start doing things like synthetic crystal plants and just generally sort of raise the floor. It is a little sad. I mean, so we of course know from the backstory that something is taken out of the galaxy each time one of these sort of these contracts are done, and so of course we did something of that. Ultimately, this precursor species committed suicide over, basically, and we did it so that it can basically just sit in our sit in our home system complete. Unused. But it just makes me feel good to have it, More slaves. Not quite at the point where we're ready to... oh yeah, we're not going to be there for a while. But I do think we are ready to build on the industrial world.
Incoming transmission.
A research agreement, you say, from the Zaxoids, no less. All right, we have much to learn from one another, Emutherian. We propose the creation of a research agreement between our empires. I agree. Now, if I recall correctly, I had some intelligence operations going on. Trivial. Oh, this is great. We can read everybody's mail. Okay, so the next level is 75. I think probably what I will do here is I'm going to wait until we hit the cap, and then we're going to pick up another asset, especially because this existing asset is not that useful. It is interesting that they're only superior now as far as their ability. So, again, I'm not quite at the point where I want to rest the, I don't exactly want to rest these systems from the hive yet, but we are getting a little bit beefier. Yeah, that makes both of us Eyes of Sin. So, I hope you're doing well. I don't know if my voice has gotten any better over the course of the broadcast, but...
Incoming transmission.
Huh. We believe that the Black Codex and the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation have much to offer one another. We suggest entering into a mutually beneficial commercial pact. So here, we're going to get 2061. Okay, so they're benefiting more from this stuff. I should have actually checked that on the research agreement as well, but... the thing is that being able to sort of form kind of a coalition doesn't, that isn't the worst thing in the world for me right now. Particularly if I want to, try and topple the Vitresis Hive as the power. Am I willing to give up more influence for a migration treaty? How confident am I that my worlds are better? They are environmentalists. Well, at least in this case, we can build it up to 100, so... I think I'm going to leave them there, and we can move on to the next empire when the time comes. So, these guys are probably just going to be mad that they're left out, but too bad.
Incoming transmission.
Alright. The resolution is passed, so this was something to boost my economy. I'm actually curious if the rankings change right away. As it is, we're still ahead of the game. So we've got buzzword standardization and regulatory facilitation now. So it's a net plus 20 to our economy, which is one of our better traits. Their economy is not as strong, and so as a result, they don't get as much of a bonus. Oh, actually, you know what? We're even. Oh, this is funny. So my my base economy actually is slightly lower than theirs. Huh. Okay, they want the migration treaty as well. Okay, let's give this a shot. This might have some consequences for me, but as long as I don't fall to influence 3, I think I can live with the closer relations. Hey, Jared J, folks. For those of you who are not checking out, actually there'll be 2 that I give you. So there's Jared J. I've had the distinct privilege of getting to know Jared J a little bit better as one of the new community managers at Brace Yourself Games, and he was doing an excellent job of hosting, not Brainslug. Thank you for watching Brainslug, but I'm not trying to shout you out. Brace Yourself Games. But yeah, for those of you, I hope that's the right Twitter channel. They were showing off the new update for Industries of Titan. That's going to be releasing tomorrow. I will be playing that on Wednesday. But this is not about Brace Yourself Games, but rather Jared J, who was very recently fundraising for, was it the Stop Asian Hate? Sorry, I don't remember the exact organization that you were fundraising for. But of course, we were talking quite a bit about Brian on the Rocks, who is somebody who's at Respawn, who is doing a bunch of fundraising. In their case, they were doing the Palestine Children's Relief Fund, and Jared was doing an equally worthwhile charity drive. And again, not just sort of collecting money on group's behalf, but putting some of his own money at play, doing basically donating a certain amount for each sub, and did this really wonderful sort of, I guess I would call it a concert of, in addition to his own talents, to bring along a bunch of other broadcasters, other content creators, other musicians, and just sharing a really good time, as well as raising some money for a very worthwhile cause. So for those of you, in addition to the great charity work, I'm sure it would be wonderful if that was what Jared's channel could be 100% dedicated to, but I have a feeling that probably there wouldn't be any money and time left for anything else. But for those of you who are interested in following Jared J's channel, he has got a level of knowledge, and actually I know Eyes of Sin will like this factor, a level of knowledge and investment in Pokemon which is far beyond anything that I will ever achieve for that series. I would be interested in kind of looking at Pokemon, but I don't really have a lot of Nintendo stuff to play it with. But Jared's also done everything from Bug Snacks, which was fascinating and weird, to again just some more creative things, and this particular weekend dedicated to good works, and so is definitely somebody who's worth shouting out across all of those different dimensions. Oh, I'm sorry, I totally screwed that up. I think Stop Asian Hate was the badge in Apex Legends. Apparently I've got Respawn on the brain. My apologies. So Jared J was fundraising for the Asian Mental Health Collective, which of course is going to be related to the topics I was talking about, but is clearly not the same. Yeah, obviously, thank you very much for the work that you were doing on that, Jared. And obviously, I wasn't there for the whole thing, but it seems like you blasted through your goals, and I'm really happy that worked for you, because it's obviously a very, very timely and very, very important cause. Okay, where was I? I always find the dismount on talking about charitable stuff is always a little tricky, because of course, charity is always a good thing. It's always something we should be talking about more. And I always feel like such a goon, just is like, okay, now back to video games where I'm enslaving people and taking territory for no reason other than I want my numbers on the screen to go up. Obviously the dismount's a tricky one. Yeah, no worries. I mean, obviously, I think you've probably noticed enough that my my chat persona is very different from who I am on stream, and I always try to do it in a way that is like in some contexts I actually don't mind winding people up, because there are some people who deserve to be sort of wound up, but obviously I never want it to become harmful. So, obviously when it comes on, with the new Unreal Engine 5, like clearly I was waiting until I think it was Alexa and Bahar were in chat to say, it's like, oh yeah, so you're upgrading the engine, and like none of the features are gonna get delayed, and like you're gonna be using like the brand new tech like Nanite, and right away, right? Nothing's delayed. Clearly there I am maybe not being super serious, although it is sometimes fun to it is sometimes fun just to say that sort of stuff, but it was actually really nice to say. I mean, so first of all, you do a very, very good job of kind of directing everyone's attention to some of the questions inside of chat. Like, I think you do a very good hosting role, but it was actually really neat to hear a little bit more from Sir Kama, because while there are those videos available, there are some little details that I didn't know about in terms of the art style for for Industries of Titan, and particularly just to hear sort of his interests, and perhaps some of the things that go into making the game with such a distinctive visual style. I thought that was really interesting, and I have a feeling that that stream in particular is going to be very helpful for people, because it's probably to a large extent going to be the visuals that really get them into the game, with of course all due respect to the rest of the work that the team does. Like, it's an incredibly fun game to play, but I know I definitely know that there's a bunch of people who are look at that voxel style and they're like, how long has this been going on? What is this? And so that was a particularly good stream. Although I'm always going to be happy to see more Brace Yourself stuff. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, if you go to the Brace Yourself YouTube channel, when the video is ready, it will. I believe they do put the. I do believe they put the developer streams on their channel. Okay, the enigmatic cache departs. It appears as though the enigmatic cache is now done with its scan of Borbo Prime and is seeking another target planet within our borders. So we'd say a relief for the citizens of Borbo Prime, or a shame. We will say it's a relief. Look at it go. Do I really want to keep... Yeah, let's keep bringing him onto Aranus. We're already building the industrial district, so we're okay there. I'm just trying to bring Aranus up to the point where I can put a production center on it. Is this the Grand Fleet? The Imperial Fleet.
Special project complete.
Alright, so this is the event chain that I got some time ago, where we're trying to get different specimens for our Museum of Xenobiology. The Tarblack secured. After an extensive search of the seabed on Sastrum 4 using a small fleet of mini-submarines, the crew of the ISS Durasteel finally managed to corner the elusive target of their search, a live Tarblack. The shimmering creature, which defends itself by emitting faint psionic signals that produce a sense of dread in most organics, was brought on board the science ship in a special water tank simulating its natural environment. The crew members on the ISS Durasteel that came into direct contact with the Tarblack require extensive therapy, but the mission has been a success. And we get a big stack of society research, so it looks like we're already on our way to collecting the next bits, which is good. I wanted to sort of prioritize collecting that one simply because it is a It's a basically, this is outside of my territory, and while it does seem like things are improving between us and the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation, there was no guarantee that those borders would remain open. And so basically being able to collect things that I don't directly control early is kind of the key to getting this thing done. The good news is that most of the stuff is already within our borders, so there's not too much of a worry there, but you never know, right? New faction founded. A new faction has recently been gaining traction in the internal political landscape of the Black Codex, led by scientist Dimi Jidumak. They call themselves the Internal Growth Board. Their members lobby for a national focus on financial growth and stability through peaceful means. Ugh, pacifists. Look, we didn't get a nightmare psionic, creature from between dimensions so that we could be peaceful. So they want a defensive stance and solid liquidity. Well, I can handle the solid liquidity. I think that makes sense, but defensive stance? Nah. You don't play a war game to be a pacifist. I'm gonna need to make some decisions on the capital world before too long. Ah, nuts. I emptied the... yeah. Oops. Alright. High Curator Bondun Lapidon. The agreement we signed giving you access to our databanks has run its course. Would you like to extend it for another 10 standard years? Or do your researchers no longer require the information that we offer? So this is going to cost us 5,000. So basically we're spending 10,000 every 10 years. So that's basically 1,000 a year. And unfortunately, because you have to divide by 12, you need to do a little math in your head. But I think that's about like 83. I think it's with repeating 3. It's like 80. Rounding it, we'll say 80, but you want to round up. So let's just say an even 100. And we'll chop off the 2 months just for prep. So basically, we need 100 credits a month. Because we obviously don't want to dedicate our economy just to maintaining these agreements, and clearly we are not meeting that right now. Now, as it is, this is already going to be solved. I'm just going to sell some of my surplus. One of the biggest surplus that I have, and one of the most high-value items that I have, is alloys. So I'm going to sell 2,500, and now we can afford to extend our deal. However, if I am messing with the prices for things like alloys in the galaxy, it means that my enemies are likely going to be able to acquire those rather cheap goods. So I want to be careful that I don't go to that well too often. So we would like to extend our deal, and we know we're going to have to do that again with the artisan troop before too long. Excellent. Our databanks shall remain available to your scientists. I'll still bring him onto Aerostat, but I do need to... Uh-oh, I already messed up. Okay, why don't you want to work on Aerostat? Probably because you're not a specialist, right? Nope, because I don't have any specialist jobs. Well, that'll be fixed in a little bit, but we clearly need to build... So we need to build ourselves up to 25. So we've got 20, 22... Not great, because that now means that the priests... Actually, you know what? On this because we're now where we need to be with consumer goods, let's just remove that specialization altogether. Let's do this for... I'm going to do this for all my worlds and just hope this works out. So this is how we got out of our consumer goods deficit. We've been out of it for a while, and we're starting to generate some surpluses. So the hope here now is that we're going to be able to sort of shift our focus and have our empire working a little bit more effectively, making sure that we're generating things like unity and tech, and just generally following a little bit more of a balanced growth path than we have been. Now, one thing I can do to try and help me out with
Construction complete.
one thing I can do to help out with my my costs is to actually bring my naval capacity up. In fact, one thing I should remember is that I have the Varnalis Starfleet. I've got room for battleships, and I haven't built battleships. So I'm going to force my hand here. These things take 8, right? Yeah. Technically, there's only room for 1 in the fleet at the moment. I'll start with that. It also occurred to me, like, the psionic avatar is perfectly capable of wiping these things out on its own, so I don't know why I didn't just send it off over there again. Yeah, no problem, Jared. Thank you for stopping by. Well, and hanging out, but okay. I still think there is an argument for boosting Aerostat up to a capital world so that we can put a productivity booster on it. We're obviously doing fine for alloys, so I don't care if we give up a little bit there. But I think there is a question in terms of how we have built our stations, and that's going to be dealt with now. So one thing I am reluctant to do is to take potential defensive structures, you know, at wormholes and potential invasion points, and turn those, turn those things into like basically fill them up with oh really? Let's give you a missile battery. I'm not quite ready to turn those things into, well, I have to really. I'd love to like fill them to the brim with weaponry, but it's like somebody's gonna have to defend the somebody's gonna have to support the fleet. So okay, let's think about our possibilities on Gribbon. So question number 1, is there any trade in the area that I might want to claim? Technically yes, with Aerostat, although there's a good argument that Aerostat should maybe get its own base. Actually, yeah, you know what, we've got so much Starbase capacity. Let's just upgrade that one for starters. So what else can I build on Gribbon? Like, my options right now are shipyards, anchorages, gun batteries, missile batteries, hangar bays, and trade hubs. So you might want to build a trade hub so that you can extend the reach for your trade. But again, like, there's no trade except where Aerostat is, and we already said that Aerostat is going to be its own trading center. So that's solved. So at this point here, unless I want to build a shipyard, there's nothing else for me to build on Gribbon, really. Actually, they already have a trade hub, too. So anchorage is for everybody. I think I'm just going to leave the rest there. The question is, do I want it? So I think there's also an argument. So this is my capital world. This is a little bit different. There is actually an argument to doing more than one shipyard here. So I think I'm actually just going to build a second one, and I'll leave that in reserve. So Intham, I think, is in the same position as the other worlds, unless I really want to try and get that too. Or unless I feel that we're not sufficiently defending the surrounding territories. I think now we can afford to... put a few more ships down. And I'll do off-world trading company again, just to boost the trade value. Okay, Gribbon, we already did. Wentwork. So Lemsa seems to be in a position where I would want to build a base on its own Again, I want to be a little careful that I don't go too crazy on my bases, but for here... This one seems to be a little more obvious to me, just a bunch of anchorages. Riser is a defensive structure. So first thing, I'm going to put a hangar bay down. Target uplink computer and a communications jammer are the priorities for these ones. Again, this is because it's pointing outside, and in fact... Does it say if there's an energy cost to maintain these things? Try and build as many of those as I can. We're sitting on a nice little stack of alloys, so I think it's time for me to put a little more into my defense. This may prove very costly. I might have to cancel this, but I think same story with Jabba. Yep. So we've already got the bases. We do have a nebula refinery here, so it's a little bit different. So I guess the question is, do I want a comms jammer more, or do I want a uplink computer more? Let's do the uplink computer for starters. Nope, and we've used up our alloys, so don't need to think about that for a bit longer. Now, one thing that'll be nice is that, assuming that those defensive platforms don't cost me too much, we are going to recover a little bit in the... We're going to recover a little bit by bringing our naval capacity into compliance. The other thing is that now that I'm not used to having this bottomless pocket for the alloys, the hope is that I'm actually going to start worrying a little bit more about my my alloy production. Okay, subspace sensors. Sensors that detect the subspace fluctuations in the wake of traveling starships. Their sensitivity and range is greater than that of a gravitic sensor array. So again, this just gives me more information about the surrounding areas. Oracle's Grave Nebula. Telecore Citizen Combat. Okay, so I wonder what happened there. Probably a war. Sensors, sorry, we've already got that. So I suspect I'm going to want to upgrade my ships at some point, but maybe not while they're on their way to taking out bad guys. 23 months for Cloud Lightning conduits, 15 months for quantum probes. And it would be really nice to have disruptors because those are really good at taking out shields. But let's go for the cheapest because we've got a lot of ground to make up on our physics, I think. And it does look like we're starting to leave this Axoid Stellar Confederation in the dust, which is nice. So let's see what happens when we move into September in the game. I just want to see what happens to these numbers. So technically here we're covering what we need for... Yeah, not anymore.
Our ships have been improved. Evading heretics.
Okay, looks like I'm responsible for capturing the battle. I don't think we've lost anyone yet.
Our ships have been improved.
No, now we did. Oh, now we've lost quite a few. Okay, so in total, we lost a Corvette and a cruiser. Okay, that's actually not all that bad, if I'm totally honest. Whether or not I can afford to build more is another question. But we got rid of what we wanted to, so we're actually going to just send them straight on an upgrade. They'll automatically recover, and there should be a nice new battleship waiting for them.
Construction complete.
And we knew this was coming. Esteemed Patriarch Cal Bascool, a decade ago the Black Codex pledged to support the artisan troop, and so you have. The time of your patronage is coming to an end, but we would be remiss not to ask, would you care to renew your subscription to the finest arts and crafts in the galaxy? So, you've seen me automatically decide to continue doing this deal. But again, I like to remember my friend who wanted to understand civilization a little bit better, and because for me, I always say, the way I play this game makes it so that it's a good idea to spend this money on Unity, I will. Let's think specifically about what we're getting and decide, is this a deal I actually want to keep working on? So first of all, it's fun to read things from the Artisan Troop. It's Stellaris Kickstarter. Who wouldn't want to do that? Also, this is a great song coming up, so this is going to be the most exciting explanation of the Curator Enclave, or the Artisan Troop. So this is going to cost me 5,000 energy. What am I going to get for it? Well, there's going to be a better opinion from the Artisan Troop, but, whatever. It's going to be 120 months, so basically a 10-year contract, and it's going to give me a 10% bonus to monthly Unity. So what is my monthly Unity? Right now, oh, does it actually tell me? Okay, it's not going to tell me what the benefit from it is. It's actually, so it's for 425.37 after we apply that bonus. So let's think a little bit about where we are in the playthrough right now. I've got an Empire Sprawl of 293 of 182. So we're basically 110 over our admin cap, a little bit higher than that, but let's say 110. Our technology costs are up by 39%. Our tradition adoption costs are up by 59%. And we've basically doubled our campaign and rare resource edict costs. Now, generally I'm willing to eat a lot of this, because the idea here is that the expansion that I have been doing is something that will allow me to build enough buildings that will take advantage of, like, basically, yeah, I've expanded well beyond my capacity, but I've also expanded in such a way that I'm colonizing a bunch of worlds, so I'm going to be able to do things like build temples and research centers and so on and so forth. So one of the things that would be helpful for me is to be able to sort of mitigate those higher costs through other means. And in this case, basically because one of the plans in terms of overcoming my Empire Sprawl is to already double down on things that'll be generating Unity for me, it helps to have that 10% bonus. So in this case, this is why I think converting 5,000 credits every 10 years into a 10% Unity is a good deal. If you take a look at where we are right now, like it's 8 months. I think we were somewhere around 70 months to get a new tradition. And you can see that the new traditions are usually pretty powerful. So I'd say overall, in terms of the curve, I'm actually probably behind where I would want to be on Unity. But in this case here, if I was ignoring Unity, I probably wouldn't find this a very good deal, because I am trying to sort of augment my Unity to overcome some of the effects of my Empire Sprawl. Even though I do need to wind up selling resources in order to achieve this, I still think that's money well spent. So let's go to the Galactic Market. I'm obviously not going to sell any alloys because I'm short on them and I need them for other things. And consumer goods are still a little too dicey to give up. So in this case, we're just going to sell a lot of food. It's a deal. You're kidding me. I go into negative food the turn that... Huh. All right, well.
System survey complete.
This'll solve itself through growth. It's just kind of funny that we're gonna have to deal with this. I'm happy that we're getting a nice boost to our energy credits, though. like, again, I'm not too worried. If I see this numbers like maybe start going into like -20, then I'm going to think that there's a more structural problem here. But in this case, we've got slack in the, in the base resource
Our
generation.
ships have been improved.
So I'm just going to let the deficit run for a little while. We built that stockpile for a reason. And in this case, we're just going to draw down on some of our food stockpiles while our population grows. Although speaking of, I just want to see if there's anything fancy I can do with my existing stockpiles.
The spirits have granted us new wisdom.
Looks like no. Okay, this research center got built, and we've got nothing for this ship to do now. I think the time has come for me to maybe lock these borders in a little bit more. Okay, rare crystal manufacturing. This I didn't really get because I wanted it. I got it because it gives me another draw from the engineering deck pretty quickly. So the crystallization process is complicated and difficult, but synthetic crystals can be manufactured by using specialized industrial plants. Citadels are nice. It'll cost me 100 months, though. Civilian replica complexes I'm almost certainly not going to be using right now. So I can give myself an easier time and build a habitat. Habitats, by the way, would not be bad for me to build right now, because that's yet another opportunity for me to have more workers, basically build more workers, and particularly to have them build things like industrial goods consumer goods and alloys. But again, it's going to cost things to build those habitats. So there's a trade-off. I don't think I'm quite ready to spend 160 months on engineering research. I mean, again, it's not actually going to be 160 months. In this particular case, there's going to be other bonuses like, certain events that spawn a bunch of engineering. But this is still a lot, right? Like waiting 10 years to be able to access living metal, especially when we're able to do things like citadels and habitats. I think in this case here, the habitat is the one to go for because it's the cheapest. All right. Hope you like hearing upgrades happened.
The spirits have granted us new wisdom.
Chabki Rad. Greetings from New Baldorak. Things are progressing well here at our new colony. However, we have a small request. Chakbi Rad, one of our colonists, misses her family and friends on Baldorak terribly and wants to go home. Her whining is driving us crazy. If it's not too much to ask, do you think you could take her back? So, what? Absolutely not. Or, very well.
Situation log updated.
Excellent. Hopefully this won't put too much of a strain on your resources, since you'll only be transporting a single individual. We'll make the necessary arrangements on our end. I just broke the news to Chakbi, and she is spinning with joy. In fact, she's spinning out of control now. You'll have to excuse me, Emetherian friends. And we got Psionic Army. Once fully adapted to the basics of psionics, the mind is capable of connecting to other individuals, becoming something greater. All right, so this is going to be a chance for us to find... So we haven't really pursued a lot of the... the war goals ones. I haven't done Hollow Temple because I just don't think we have the crystals to maintain it. I still think that's true, by the way. So the question is, am I willing to put up with a higher upkeep for worker? Like, I think this is proper like worker jobs, not specialist jobs. I could be wrong on that. I should maybe double check. That's probably going to put a strain on the food in a way that I really can't. Well, we've got like 1,000 months. If I haven't figured this out in 1,000 months, I deserve to starve. And then it's kind of tempting to do the Tomb World adaptation, take an opportunity where I can. So it's 11 months versus 15 months. You know what? I do want better production. And let's see that. Spring Chakbi home. So it's a science ship in orbit. Paper Duplis, would you like a piece of weird, unexplained economic knowledge, or am I in exploration mode? Are you talking about in the game? I mean, go ahead. I'll like... if this is a secret way of telling me how to play the game, I probably won't want it. But if it's just like to let me know a weird thing, yeah, I'm fine with that. Okay, yeah, no, in the game, okay, it's like the biggest thing for me is that people are not as clever as they think they are in terms of telling me how to play the game. And if it seems like I get prickly when facts are revealed, it's because those tend to be situations where people know full well I don't want to be told how to play, and they're telling me how to play. And it's usually premised on the idea of, if only he was as smart as me, he would play the way that I play. So as long as it's not something like that, yeah, I'm totally fine for learning weird stuff. Sorry, I probably like scared the hell out of you now. Like, sorry, that is basically that's a go nuts instruction. Like, don't feel you need to hold back. Okay, I mean, go. I've said you can, so go nuts. Like. I have completely forgot to do something with this. All right, that's fine, because now we can bring Chakby home. No way to reach the What? Oh, because the mining drones showed up for some reason. Okay. Where are my fleets right now? So the psionic avatar is on its way. The Decini Starfleet should be able to handle them. Yeah, honestly, I think my patrol's probably in the best position to mop this up. So you mean like this ship, and this ship, and this ship? Is that the assist research that you're talking about? I guess this one's not doing it. Nope, this one's doing it too. No, I mean, it's something that I'm already doing. No, I don't think you're dumb. But yeah, no, like, that's actually really interesting to know. Yeah, so, okay, so here's the thing, Paper Dupless, right? Like, that's not saying... Okay, so... Let me give you a couple of examples in terms of things where I think people could have said things in a better way, and things that things that I'm okay with. So that's actually useful information to me that people do not find the ability to give. Like, 'cause this is the thing. I do not want my particularities about streaming to stop people from enjoying the stream and being able to sort of share their interest in the game. And I definitely don't want people feeling like they're dumb because because I've done something. Like, here's the one thing. Like, if it's something basic in the game, I'm taking a look at my Steam page right now. It says my playtime is 778 hours. Now, that obviously I'm still finding new stuff, right? Like, so I got a few achievements today with Dust Off and Beyond the Veil because I haven't done the spiritualist stuff. Like, that's just not an avenue I've really gone far down. On the other hand, like, to me, I've worked in... One of the reasons I build so many science ships is that I know that I can improve my overall research ability. And you'll actually notice that I specifically built some worlds around that idea. Basically saying, it's like, okay, so I'm going to do very, very careful specialization on my worlds. And I'm specifically going to build a number of research worlds to sort of absorb the number of ships that aren't already part of it. So to me, that's kind of become second nature in terms of building a Stellaris playthrough. But clearly that information wasn't communicated in a way that was effective for you, and it was something that actually really improved the game for you. So being able to get that knowledge out there is actually good, because again, it's better if there are more people who appreciate Stellaris, And I also think it's really good if people who don't know that stuff feel like they're able to say, hey, you know, I'm trying to do X, Y, or Z, or I didn't know that I could do, you know, like it helps me sort of identify some other cases where it goes through. Where it kind of became a problem in recent memory was like, you know, this is a weird map, right? I kind of had all this territory to myself. You know, I'm going in and like somebody comes into chat is like, why'd you pick so few empires? I'm like, because it was randomly assigned. Like, you know, like immediately in that tone, right? I feel like I'm being accused of like playing the game wrong. And I'm like, at that point, I suddenly, like, I don't really feel like I need to explain myself in terms of the settings that I made for the game, right? If it's a genuine request for information, as in, you know, oh, what made you choose these settings? You know, there's a very simple answer to that, which is I like to, you know, I chose a slightly smaller map because I find it's very difficult to get to the end of the game playing it, you know, at a guaranteed once a week and move on. You know, playing on a smaller map will probably help me see some of the end game content a little bit earlier, and as a result, we'll be able to appreciate some of the Nemesis stuff a little bit sooner. Or, you know, when I'm going through my scientists and that, and so on, you know, I see someone is like, you need to move your scientist into the specialization slot or whatever. It's like, I know these specializations exist. I also know it take a really long time to play the game. And maybe the benefits from checking each individual slot for scientists aren't as big. So, like, when people speak in the imperative, that's when I get annoyed, because even Paradox says, and if you look at their wiki style guidelines, they're very clear in terms of saying that there is not one canonical way of playing Stellaris. And I like to think in my own playthroughs, I go for that myself. On the other hand, I think one major appeal of these kinds of games is the fact that with a diversity of approaches, being able to discuss what's interesting and to be able to talk about some of the consequences of certain decisions. Keeping in mind that, you know, I don't know where the Shroud goes. So, like, I know about the end of cycle, and I know that that's not exactly a crisis, but sort of like an end game sort of a thing. So I at least know about the end of cycle, but like all of the intermediate steps, you know, that's a big mystery to me right now. You know, but being able to, you know, like within those confines, I think there's a lot of very fruitful conversations to be had. And some of those conversations can sometimes produce information that, even if it's not useful to me, people who are interested in the game will learn. Oh, wow, I didn't know. So, you know, for everybody who didn't know about the assist research option, you know, people, you know, everybody's going to be able to walk away with that right now. So I hope Paper Dupless, like, this is the thing. I realize that, like, I think the problem is that the people who should probably keep quiet don't feel the way that you do, and the people who are kind of coming from a position of respect or are otherwise like just trying to either get information or otherwise like just not tell me what to do, might be scared off just because of the way, you know, kind of the way that it's very hard to parse out how all these things work. But I hope I've communicated like that you know, like,
construction complete.
It's not that I don't want people to participate, and it's definitely not that I want.
Our ships have been improved.
I don't want you to feel belittled
complete.
or unable to, you know, unable to express ideas. And if I have done that, then I apologize, because that is definitely not the atmosphere that I'm trying to build here. Again, super long answer, but I hope, you know, I hope it's not as. I hope I've just kind of taken some of the nerves, I guess, away from it, for lack of a better term. Okay, let's unlock a tradition. We pretty much already said we were going to go for workplace motivators, so its time has come. There are many ways to motivate those who perform menial labor to work harder, some based on incentives and some not. Unlocks edict, extended shifts. Oh, crumbs. I didn't even realize it was an edict. All right, this is me just not reading. Yeah, this actually isn't that useful to me after all. But that's life. I'll take it anyway just so I can close the branch. It gives me the option. But yeah, so because this is an edict, so I thought it was just a flat 5% bonus to workers and slaves. Turns out I need to pay for it. And because it's an edict... That's going to cost 140 influence. Presumably, some of that... No, maybe not. So it looks like it's just rare resource edicts. Yeah, obviously things like the education campaign, the recycling campaign, like this stuff is super expensive now. And as it is, I've got a surplus of consumer goods and a sort of a shortfall of energy credits, so I'm kind of happy with where we are there. Yeah, actually, one of the things, I don't want to belabor the point, but one thing that's actually worth saying, Paper Duplicate, is like, obviously what makes Stellaris or any of these other grand strategy games interesting is just the complexity and the number of options and stuff that gets thrown out at you. So like, definitely,
have granted us new wisdom.
like, I realize sometimes it's just I realize it's sometimes just a turn of phrase, but like, definitely don't run yourself down for not knowing something in one of these games. They're kind of designed so that you are discovering new things as you keep playing them. Like, I don't know, it's just one of these... Okay, it's a personal thing for me because I don't want to, like, name names. I also completely neglected to see that there's unemployment on my Gaia world of all places. I think in the here's how I can put it. On balance, chances are you are going to run into a lot more people who will want to run you down and tell you how you're not good enough. This applies to everyone, by the way. I'm just speaking specifically to why I sometimes react a little strongly to when I hear people call themselves dumb. I'm also trying to come up with a way of explaining this from real life stuff, which doesn't make me sound like I'm completely full of myself. But I think on average you're going to run into more people who kind of want to run you down than build you up. Obviously, and you'll have your friends who will compliment you on the things that you are good at. But of course, sometimes if it's someone who knows you well and they sort of know, like, they sort of know what you want to hear, then you sort of have in the back of your mind, it's like, well, did they just say that because they wanted to know, or they knew I wanted to hear that, right? If you're of a particular mindset, that can be a problem as well. And at least in my own case in work, I've noticed that there is a tendency for people to feel very insecure about their knowledge of the field that they have been hired for. And there is definitely a style of dialogue which focuses a lot on where people went to school, or on, certain very either unrelated or indirectly related to actually getting the work done. And I have seen the effect more so in my colleagues and just how utterly discouraged they are to present individual ideas on their own. And the one real drawback here is that it would really only require them hearing, that's some good work you did on X from someone to counteract just this tendency. Because obviously if you've got a jerk in your workplace who's not going to give, credit where credit's due, then you're just dealing with a jerk in the workplace, right? You don't have a lot that you can do about that. But I think just because also online, right? Like, look, I'm on Twitch, I'm on YouTube. Twitch chat is generally very nice. YouTube on some games is really, really nice, and on other games, like, I feel mild anxiety every time I read the chat comments, even though when I read the comment, I'm like, well, this is like really unfair and frustrating, but I don't feel less of myself as a person. So I don't know where the anxiety comes from, because I've never actually had something that like makes me sit down and reconsider my life. Although I complain about it a lot, I realize. But the thing is that, right, like if you're on social media, you're already on like a pecking order. Like, did you get enough likes? Did you get enough, did you get enough attention? There's going to be lots of different situations in which people will want to try and not just do a comparison, but specifically choose you as a comparison to make themselves feel better. And so, at least for me, because I obviously I have a very bleak view of the world, given this. I just think in this particular case here, because there's already a number of strong efforts to make people feel that way about themselves. I figure at the very least, we can give ourselves a break and not do that horrible work for others. So. But again, I also need to appreciate, like, I'm making a meal out of a turn of phrase. Like, I don't actually think people have these like existential, there's this existential dread in terms of like, oh, am I ever going to be good enough or whatever. Like, I know sometimes it's just how people talk, but it is something I sometimes feel bad about, just because I know the feelings. I think I'm going to build an agricultural... I could build an agricultural district, but I think the work slot's going to be satisfied by building another city district. So I'm going to build that instead to deal with the unemployment. Still hasn't answered the question about the slave, but we'll get that dealt with in just a moment. Okay, only one job available on Quantos, so I think I'm going to have to start making some choices. First choice is going to be for a city district. Caster's got 5. Well, there's bureaucrats, I guess. Anthem's already got its productivity. Yeah, Aerostat still seems to be the right choice here, because we're building it up to its productivity level. So why did I think otherwise? I'm not sure, but we've got it sorted. Okay, I'm still going to do this world audit. So this is not very expensive anymore. We'll get rid of the ruined arcology. Actually, let me just double check on this tradition thing. So yeah, we already have the clear blocker bonus. So at this point, we should probably just be clearing out our worlds. I'll do it one at a time, but at this point, we really need to we shouldn't have stuff obstructing our ability to use the worlds productively. Was Dust Desert and 2 isolated valleys. Okay. Am I missing something here? So we've got crystalline caverns. Oh, right, it's the odd factory that's messing me up. Okay, that's fine. And I believe there's, like, we've chosen to keep the Titanic life forms. Nothing to clear here. Yggdrasil. We have dust caverns, but I haven't built a moat harvesting trap, so that's got to get put in place. Abandoned primitive homesteads. I don't think we do anything to develop that. Yeah, it's just better agriculture. Which again, really throws me for a loop here. I don't know if I want to make this a food world or an industrial world, given that we're teasing the... Well, yeah, actually, I mean, given the fact that we're sort of teasing the edge of the... Oh, man, yeah. I might want to halt this industrial district business. Yeah, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to replace... I'm going to make this a more food-oriented world. I don't think we can build the... this is an inconvenient time to do this, because this is 10 industry worth... sorry, this is 10 consumer goods worth that I'm just pulling out of my economy. But this is definitely the kind of forward-looking that I want to do. I guess it doesn't really matter which of these I clear, but this gets us the most. Okay, Borobo. Yes, I mean, this one is probably more sensible as an industrial world. Although I think I said I was potentially going to make this a forge world. Alright, this is apparently just generally more expensive. Why is that? The world will never know, but we'll pay for it anyway. And finally, Ibleria Prime. So Migrating Forest Reserve, I think, is just a thing we're going to have to deal with. So maybe this one becomes the industrial world, and the other one becomes the forge world. I think I might be skirting the edge of disaster here, but you get to be in a... So the justification here, right, is that there's more industrial districts on Borobo Prime than there are on Iblira. So the idea here is I only want enough consumer goods to be able to maintain what I already have, whereas the Forge Worlds, I want, like, everything. Like, I want it, there's no limit to the number of alloys I want to generate a turn. So I think that's a division that will work well for me. Excuse me. Okay, so we spent a bunch of energy credits, but honestly, I think this is something we should have done a long time ago. We've dealt with the slave good, and we've got our recent research station output improving. Okay, advanced probes that can thoroughly analyze subjects on a subatomic level, generating a wealth of valuable research data. So I've got an antimatter reactor if I want to make my ships better, experimental subspace navigation, which would actually really help my stranded science ship here. Better research station output, better shields. Okay, I really want the better research station output. I really need to get my science pushing forward. But our fleet is an embarrassment right now. In terms of some of its defensive capabilities. So shields it is out of pure necessity. And sorry, I know that was a longer...
Our ships have been improved.
I know that was a longer round than probably what people were banking on, but... Right, we're already building the city district, so we're fine there. Although, I think at some point I'm going to need to make some harder decisions in terms of other things that I build. I think one thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to... Oh, do I not have any more...
Our ships have been improved.
Well, let's see what happens with the ruined arcologies.
Our ships have been improved.
Again, that's not going to get annoying to listen to at all. I think what I'm going to do is we will unlock this all, or we'll call it a session when we free our science ship. So if there's any remaining
Construction
questions,
complete.
comments, statements, anything along those lines, feel free to speak up. Or just
Our
enjoy
ships have been improved.
our closing moments. Well, I say moments, this is going to take a while, but I do actually have a few things that I need to get into. So the biggest thing is that I was actually kind of counting on finishing on time because there's a few things that I need to get done specifically before midnight. But I have a feeling I'll be able to get through it. And the Senate is now in session, so we are forming the Galactic Council, and looks like I did pull ahead in the end as far as the diplomatic weight's concerned. I already know I'm guaranteed a seat on the council, but the stronger my position, the more likely I am to sort of push for the two-person council. It's like these guys are ready to upgrade no matter what.
The spirits have granted us new wisdom.
Oh, the Shroud is accessible. We are currently able to enter the Shroud through the Contacts menu. Okay, so as cool as the Shroud is, we know that there's a big energy credit cost, and I'm not quite ready to support that, so... Okay, improve production. Capital buildings, resources from jobs plus 10%, upkeep from jobs plus 10%. Our planets, as our planets become more developed, we can gain significant improvements to our throughput. We'll see exactly what the cost of that is over time, but... Okay, so we've got a new edict here. Thought enforcement. Telepaths monitoring the citizenry for incorrect thoughts will make corrections as they find them. Lasts until cancelled. Bonus to encryption, minus to happiness, bonus to governing ethics attraction. I'm not quite ready I'm not ready to go that far. Oh, here we go. Our nutritional plentitude edict. We've been waiting forever for this thing. So I'd love to be able to use Ro, but this will not take us very long, and this is actually really going to help us when we get our food back online. This is how we're going to make our planets populous. Okay, we're at 145 on influence, so I can improve my alloys at least by going up to Lisak. And these guys are going to be mad that I'm close to them, but they're going to be mad at me no matter what. Aruz has the crystals, which is also election time. Yeah, it's hard to say that these are the most important, but I figure I should probably close out these gaps. All right. So the Cardanis Starfleet has been upgraded. That's the one with my battleship. Patriarch Kalbaskul has died at age 158. So we did try and push someone through last time. We don't even have the influence for it anyway, so at this point we'll just watch. But our options are Tigi Dakara, who gives us extra unity from jobs, selective nostalgia. Dimba Korab has leadership experience gain 25%. Tigil Jakir has skill development as well, so it's 50% chance that we're going to have skill development. And then probably the one I would like the most, although we'll have a new election before too long, would be Maki Dakara. And that would be a new generation bonus to pop growth speed and happiness. The one drawback here is that this is actually a really good researcher who's currently working on physics. So the other interesting... So basically we have 3 governors who I wouldn't lose too much by having them become the leader. And then the one with the most desirable traits is actually my researcher, who gives me a very good ability empire-wide, but at the cost of losing a very good researcher. So we'll abstain and see how it works. And we have Tigi Dakara, previously governor on Tea Prime, has become the next ruler, and we get 10% unity from jobs. I believe this means I need a replacement governor. So, first of all, let's double check what we're looking at. So this is going to be a Forge world and an Agra world. And they're both relatively new worlds. They're large enough that they've... What the hell? Oh, of course. They're specialists. I gotta find specialist jobs for these. I could build a second temp. I feel really bad about doing this, but that's 50 influence I really didn't need to spend. Anyways, so this is farm, and this is going to be farm and industry oriented, and they're still somewhat early on in their lives, so Righteous doesn't do a whole lot for me. The Brain Slug host is kind of nice because of the... Oh, the planetary build speed plus 10% is good. Resilient gives me sort of... a lot, so they don't have anything necessarily all that special about them, but it does give me an extra 25 years with this governor. I think the Brain Slug's nice enough on its own, though, so we'll take this this bundle of abilities. And because we've got a surplus, actually maybe I'll save that for the next stream, but with nutritional now that I have access, or sorry, I don't have access to nutritional plentitude, so I don't need to worry about it, but in 4 months with nutritional plentitude, I'm gonna have to sort of do a little planning as far as which ones I want to assign that to. Let's work on my expansion plans.
Complete.
Work is done. Okay. So you can see we're starting to get a little bit more naval capacity, which is good.
System survey complete.
All right, we'll wait until these defense platforms are done. No point in cutting ourselves off at the knees. So I'm only ever going to be able to build one colony at a time at this point. Oh, all right. We get to see my big evil shroud avatar. All right. I'm impressed.
Construction complete.
Go get him. Alright, so there's some research that's happening. So as much as I want to watch the fights, let's get that out of the way. Gene crops. Sophisticated genetic engineering of crops helps increase yield and further improves both taste and nutrient levels. So nice bonus here is we're already getting a 20% bonus. Currently we produce 265, but from farmers, so we care about the 255.59. 20% bonus to that is about 50 more food. Food from Starbase Constructions. Well, we haven't built any hydroponics labs yet, but I suppose that's an option for us if we don't want to have more farming worlds. And the big one here is the Nutritional Plentitude Edict. Because basically I can use surplus food to make my my worlds grow faster. Okay. I think the time has come for me to boost the command limit. It'd be fun to do the this Tomb World adaptation. But I actually think boosting my command limit so that I can have some more battleships is a good idea. All right. Let us send the Avatar back home. It's a slow-moving thing, so maybe I'll just keep it at the border as a little threat. Okay. We'll get a science. There'll be a science ship to explore that at some point, but. Oh, we didn't even see the. The mining drones. I don't know if we lost anything on that. It's size 9, so I'm guessing not. But we'll do. We'll give them the upgrade while we're at it. Okay, Abandoned Gateway. An ancient space station of some kind has been located at the edge of the Amastes system. The strong residual subspace signature that surrounds the station indicates that it may be a gateway of sorts, part of a theoretical network of similar stations that at some point would have allowed for near instantaneous travel between different parts of the galaxy. Assuming this is a gateway, its current state of disrepair has rendered it unusable. It could be restored into working order. Its owner would potentially be able to access any other functional gateways in the galaxy, enabling travel across huge distances in a matter of days. This is owned by another species already. Excuse me. Another thing I was just considering is we haven't seen any L-gates yet. And I'm wondering if they're just not in this particular map, or if I did something to offend them. Like if basically people have been slowly researching towards this major advantage that, that I've just been sort of asleep at the switch on. So I'm going to start working on bringing Chakpi home. I believe this ship in particular was working on the species collection mission. So I'm going to do all that. They're now also ready to explore this system. And I think when they're done all of that, I'll have a better idea of what the galaxy looks like. My apologies to those of you who wanted to buy follows. You gotta be quicker on the draw. Okay, I think I said I was gonna call it when we freed the ship. So here'll be it doesn't hurt to do a little bit of a review in terms of what we managed. So our economy is back in balance. In fact, if anything, I probably overcompensated as far as the food is concerned, but I don't think that's bad. I'll give you an example in terms of what's going to be happening on the food front. So now we have an option to do decisions. Nope. Wrong one. That's an edict, not a... Or is it even an... Yeah, no, it is an edict. God, I don't even remember if this decision's in the game anymore, if I just need the tech. But I'm still doing research subsidies, and I think that is the right call here. That might actually be something I'd double-check the wiki on. So yeah, the surplus of food actually isn't as important as I thought it was. But yeah, no, this is the big thing here, is that not only are we balanced on the economy, but I've actually gotten, if you take a look at my population here, you'll notice that I'm no longer specializing any particular role. Now, that may or may not be a good thing, right? Like, maybe it would be good if I specialized in terms of bureaucracy, just so that I could start mitigating the effects of Empire Sprawl. Our Empire Sprawl has grown by quite a bit this session. And that's just, there's a very simple reason behind that. And that's just simply, I've decided to start filling in some of the gaps on the map. I think that is the right choice. It's what's allowed me to be back over 100 in terms of my energy, and what is going to sort of help augment my research and such. But these things don't happen for free. There's a cost, and that particular cost is the effect of higher Empire Sprawl. It's also worth remembering that one other consequence of this is simply going to be that my encryption doesn't work as well as if I had that Empire Sprawl under control. But I've also played Megacorps quite a few times, so I'm kind of used to having the Empire Sprawl being a lot larger than what it would normally be. So the question here is really more about, can I get the appropriate number of can I get the appropriate number of better buildings to overcome those limitations? The answer now is a qualified yes. I think at this point we are really outstripping my ability to fill those research slots. But there's also, there's kind of a limit. This is going to be a big project, but we are going to be getting access to a few more planets that we can colonize. What else did I want to say? The other thing, too, is actually because we're feeling pretty comfortable as far as my consumer goods are concerned. In fact, one thing I might want to consider is just increasing the amount that I sell. Yeah, actually, you know what? Let's add 10. Yeah, so now we've actually sold more than we've bought in terms of consumer goods. Again, just trying to show get a little more balance in terms of the market. But yeah, so our economy is at a point now where I'm no longer relying on specialization to make this all work together. I don't recall how much longer we have in terms of our trade. I think it was the Gearoids. Yeah, this is the trade deal. That will expire in 2329. So we've got 17 more years. Basically, we give them 213 minerals. They give us 60 consumer goods. So, of course, it's worth remembering that right now we're currently trading. So this basically what is happening here is this is the number of consumer goods that we're going to be earning at the end of that trade. So in this case, we're already in a surplus. As far as the minerals are concerned, we're actually not buying back as many as we're trading away. So we're going to have a big mineral windfall once this deal is done. There is actually one other thing that I wanted to check, which was the status of our spy network. Let's do this by power. So the archivists are still... Oh, they're equivalent economically. Interesting. Okay, how are we? Still not at the limit, so that's fine. I do eventually want to acquire an asset, but again, it would be nice if I had a little more security in terms of my economy, especially with a faction that wants me to keep savings of 5,000. I don't mind that terribly. How's the espionage with these guys? Getting close to the limit. Essentially what'll happen is I'll prepare a sleeper cell. I mean, the one drawback here is that if it costs 30, I think it means that my default level is going to be 70. And, maybe there's some things that I want to see at the 100 level that I can't currently see. In this case, we have high intel on everything, so basically we can read all of their mail. I believe that means... Nope, I still can't look at their ships. Why is that? If I've got full... Oh, maybe because I'm looking at the wrong species? Nope. Not enough intel to know their ship design. Wow. Okay. But yeah, so I guess I shouldn't get used to... seeing their... I guess I shouldn't get used to reading their mail. Well, no, hang on. There might be other things in terms of how sleeper cells work that I don't appreciate. But anyways, there's a possibility here that I may need to rethink this approach. But yeah, it looks like basically we can kind of see everything. We have nothing with the Gyroid, but that should be something that we're able to overcome. These guys we never tried. I'm just trying to think what else I want to try and accomplish with all of these. Oh, actually, there's another important factor, which is the Talakor Citizen Compact now counts as inferior compared to me. So I don't really have any deals with them right now. So if we go to diplomacy, well, we didn't need to do diplomacy, but, you know, they're rivaling the Gyroid Empire, so we're friends with the Gyroids. They've got a commercial pact, a research agreement, a defensive pact, migration treaty with the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation. So this is actually the real drawback here. If I were to demand vassalization of them, it means that the Zaxoids are going to get involved as well. Now, I might be able to take on the Zaxoids. We don't know. We've actually put some effort into not having to fight the Zaxoids. But one of the things that would be kind of cool, of course, is if I had a reliable way of getting into Talakor's space, which I do. It's this natural wormhole. If I can go in and just eat their lunch, it is quite possible that we would actually be able to vassalize them. Maybe not in the first go, but basically what you can do is you can demand vassalization. You get a casus belli on them for 1 year, and you can declare war. The only catch to that is, of course, is that with certainty, the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation will come to their defense. And so what essentially I want to wait to have happened is either for the Zaxoids to go to war with, ideally with the Hive, but basically to go to war with anyone. And then either I am going to be in a situation where, all right, so they're rivaling the Vitresis Hive and the Gyroid Empire. So yeah, this is a situation where we're currently on friendly terms, and it would be nice if I could somehow avoid, avoid breaking that, because this is kind of far away. It's nice to have a vassal, but it's not the only consideration. And I've got these guys to contend with, and they are fully capable of giving me a run for my money, which raises the question as to whether or not I'm actually capable of handling the Talakor Citizen Compact on their own. Although again, we've got the Avatar, so who knows. So we're kind of at the point here where I might actually be able to start making some bigger moves in terms of my ability to kind of throw my weight around in the galaxy. But I don't necessarily want to sort of show my cards quite yet. I don't think there'll be a way to break the relationship between these two, although there might be some espionage stuff I haven't really considered. I guess even arming privateers inside the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation would tie up their navies a little bit. But it's kind of nice to know now that I have the option to exercise some military options in the way that I didn't before. And I think over the next few turns, as we start sort of securing these last few wormholes, I can see a situation where maybe we start mobilizing a little bit more and making sure that we've got fleets in place that are able to start making some big military moves that in a way that we haven't really been focusing on in the future. And of course, we got the Shroud, so quite a bit done this round. One last thing, sorry, I know I'm taking forever to get out of here, but I want to take a quick look at technology levels. So 3855, 3099, 1424, so they're still miles ahead of us. 1451, so we're still actually behind the Zaxoids. That's kind of interesting. The Gyroids are killing it. I don't know what happened to their tech. And then we're doing better than the Talakor, so... Yeah, we didn't quite get our technological edge that we were looking for, but I'm feeling a little bit better about where we are. And at some point, I really do need to earnestly look at what's going on with Empire Sprawl and see how I can get my administrative capacity under control. Because I really don't want to give up this territory, but it is also really clear that I am paying way too much for my research, and I got to find a way around it. All right, that's it for me for Stellaris tonight. Thank you all for watching. If you're just here for Stellaris, I am afraid I will probably have to see you next week. I would love to do more Stellaris, as I would love to do a lot more of the games that I'm doing, but I'm really kind of really built up in terms of the number of keys that I've got, which is a wonderful problem to have. But I do also want to, give appropriate respect to, to the developers who have given me a key. If you are interested in what's coming up in the next week or so, on Tuesday, I am going, or which is tomorrow, I've got another episode of The Elder Scrolls Oblivion. That was recorded before I did a 14-hour stream on the weekend, so the Caius voice is fully intact. That'll be running for, that'll be starting at 7 o'clock. I usually hang out in the chat. If I am slow to reply, it's not because I don't want to talk to you. It's usually because I'm working in another window. If you like strategy games, I strongly encourage you to stop by on Wednesday. We'll be doing Industries of Titan with its new update. I believe this will be the last update before it goes live on Steam in early access. So that'll be an exciting event. And then Friday we'll probably continue on with Hollow Knight. I have been definitely stuck on the Pantheons, but by God, we will get them done. Anyways, as always, thank you very much for watching. Night Valiant is currently streaming, so I'm gonna send it along to him. He is currently streaming Horizon Zero Dawn, which obviously had a big new impressive trailer come out. Of course, that's for Forbidden West. But Night Valiant seems to be having a really good time with it. It's actually been a while since I have hosted him, so I would love it if you'd come along. He is somebody looking to grow his channel, and I have actually noticed that quite a few of you have been following along from his channel and becoming regulars there, which is always a delight to see. So I think I'm leaving him in very capable hands. So anyways, thank you all. Have a great night, and I will see some of you either tomorrow or Wednesday.